are rolling along. Welcome to the Centralist tonight, everybody. We've got Joe Montaldo coming in. He's flying into New Orleans, so he's on the way. We've got Jay. You can call him Ray. You can call him Jay. You can call him Jay McNichol. I'll tell you, man, he is our fetus attorney. He's the attorney for all things, uh, abortion related. I guess you have me, of course, Michael Angley, and I'm doing my thing. And we invited others to come on, see what they have to say about this crazy political time. I think now is the most exciting time to be alive. I don't know about back in the 50s or whatever. I think things were probably pretty subdued for a lot of people. But these days, there's no holds barred. It goes right race to the bottom of the barrel. Who could be the worst? Who could be the most horrible? And I'll tell you, every time I see this elderly Joe Biden shaking, angry, saying these MAGA extremists, the MAGA extremists are a threat to democracy. Wow, isn't that something? Because every lie, every deceitful thing that this Democratic Party's done is a threat to democracy. So these people want to rewrite the playbook in their way. Oh, if you go against them, you're done. I'm not even an extremist, MAGA, whatever. I felt threatened by Biden's comments, by his ranting speech. I was like, is this for real? Is this really where this guy thinks things are at? And who is he courting? Who are these MAGA extremists that he mentions? What, the hardworking Americans? Who hardworking Americans who have some kind of faith, who have some kind of faith in their family, who want to make a few bucks and support their family, support their town, the places that they live. Oh yeah, they're horrible people. Horrible. They're a threat to democracy. Really? Is that what you think a threat to democracy is? I think people stabbing people, shooting people in the streets. I think open border. Oh, I definitely think an open border is a threat to democracy. I don't think you can go too far away from that fact that you have an unsecured border where millions of people are coming over. You don't know who they are, what their intention is. I mean, let's face it, a lot of them are males, and their intention is to come here and do what? I don't understand the Democrats thinking and doing all this other than the fact that they probably feel that these people coming over are going to vote Democrat and they can flood the country. They're always trying to make the rules where illegal aliens can vote in local elections. They do in California, and then they're not questioning it in New York. So there are things going on that are really above and beyond reasoning, normal common sense reasoning. So now you have Ron DeSantis. I started off not liking him. And to me, now he's an endearing character. He's kind of like Bugs Bunny to me. Bugs Bunny, you're old enough to remember Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny didn't play politically correct. None of those guys did. But they got the point across, didn't they? And when it comes to Bugs Bunny DeSantis, when this dude DeSantis, here's Jay McNicholas. There you are, sir.
Hey, Michael, how's it going?
Adding you to the stream, and you are on.
All right.
On. I think you're on. Are you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
I hear you. I see you. You're low. Are you low?
Oh, you don't hear me very well?
You're just a little bit low. Maybe I'm loud.
I don't know. My computer was acting up funny on the last show, so that might be part of it.
Okay. All right. Either way. Hey, man. So how you doing, Jay? How was your week?
Good.
What's going on?
Oh God, I had 7 days straight in a row where I was working. Then my first day off, I did the lawn, so I'm destroyed. I'm still recovering.
Yeah, things got busy.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I had 7 days straight working without a day off. That was hard. And then instead of resting on my first of 2 day off, I did my lawn, and it was like almost 2 feet tall, wet, and I had to do 2 passes. So I'm just, this week was just destructive, but I'm recovering.
Oh yeah,
I hope so. I
it's
mean,
getting
gosh,
fall time, so things are
yeah, I won't have to cut the grass every
things are
7, 8
coming
days
together.
anymore. Yeah, we got down in the
Leaves are starting
50s.
to change. You got
Yep.
the yeah. For most of the country, it's still pretty hot, I gather. So they're going through the throes of heat, but that's the world we're in.
Yeah.
I
Poor
tend
Jeff
not
is
to
down there
question
in
it. Living in the
Florida. He's
Northeast.
got 75-degree weather. We had 55-degree weather last night.
Oh, last night here went down to I think 41, something like that. So it
Yeah,
got
you're a little
pretty
further north than
chilly.
I am, so
I had to put my space heater on. I didn't want to turn the heat on. You know what I mean? But just to stay, pretty comfortable. I mean, it is what it
do you
is, man. And we get
do you
really
use
early
those fan?
fall.
Do you use the fan forced heater, or do you use like those oil filled radiator heaters?
Just a little ceramic heater that I
Yeah,
bought because I do a lot of hotel hopping, and
right.
when I'm doing that, a lot of them don't have good heat. No matter what the
Yeah,
brand, you could be in a Hilton or whatever. You're gonna rely on that thing on the wall. If it's really cold outside, you'll be cold.
yeah, yeah. They either will cook you or freeze you. Either one of those machines.
Yeah, I got a
Uh,
tiny little Black and Decker. The thing is so small, but it could heat a whole huge room. There was one place that had 30-foot ceilings, and then like it
yeah.
made it hot in there. So that's awesome, man. So I was talking about Ron DeSantis and how he's my big bunny. He's my Bugs Bunny. He he's reminds me of Bugs Bunny. I like that. You know what I mean? And the fact that he sent 2 planes of migrants to Martha's Vineyard. What do you think of that?
Wow. What is First of all, is Martha's Vineyard? Is it one of those sanctuary cities?
It is a sanctuary. Massachusetts is a sanctuary state.
Then in that case, more power to them. I hope they enjoy their tourists.
Martha's Vineyard is a big liberal enclave. Of course, the Obamas have a $12 million mansion there. The local people are calling on him to open his mansion up to these illegal aliens that
He's
that
not
are
going to
there.
do that. He's not going to
Really,
do
you think?
that. No.
So I mean, James Taylor, he's always singing songs about suffering and all that. He's got a beautiful place in Martha's Vineyard. So it's a big liberal enclave, is what it is. Limousine liberals are all there, and then now
Mhm.
they're all going crazy. It's funny when these illegal aliens are shipped to your neighborhood, they don't care. Or they're coming over the border in Texas and Arizona or even Florida. They got to deal with them.
Right.
They don't care. Now they ship it to them. Now they got a breakfast burrito special in Martha's Vineyard. I think that's awesome. You know what I mean? We got to give that a little bit of applause.
I think that's a good slap in the face. I mean, it really is. I mean, think about that. All these people are like, they don't want to enforce the laws that are on the book. And I don't have any problem with anyone wanting to come here through the proper channels. I mean,
Yeah.
we can't let in everybody all the time, every day of the year. It's not feasible. But they should have a way to get here. I agree with that. But to not enforce the laws is that's their job. Right? I mean,
We don't know who they are.
they're
That's what
sworn
their
in to
intention
enforce
is.
the law.
I mean, the ones coming over the border illegally. You can't have it. You can't take on. There's hundreds of millions of people out there that would come into America if they thought that they could. And there's they go on the notion, like the Statue of Liberty. Give me you're tired, you're poor, you weak, and all that. Yeah, and
Right.
we naturalize more than 1 million people a year, more than 1 million, which is quite a bit.
It's a
And
lot of
it's
people.
not. Yeah, it's not something to scoff at. So, but the open border, you don't know who they are, what their intention is. Then you get The drugs coming over. Of course, you've got so many issues with cartels. They're taking organs now, harvesting people's organs. We're hearing, and then pulling a Chinese playbook right there, and then also they're actually cutting children over and putting drugs inside of them, sewing them up and bringing them back over. So I mean, like there's things like that these are all manifestations of this open border mentality,
Yeah.
and it's got to stop. I mean, I, it's just what gets me. But the Democrats, they're causing these atrocities, and then they act like nothing's happening. They act like when like they were making their victory lap for the bill they just pushed through. That's going to reduce inflation, while inflation is going sky high and things are getting more expensive and not cheaper. But they're just not in touch, and they don't want to be. They don't care. I don't think. Do you think they care?
Well, not, as long as it doesn't affect their life immediately, no, they could care less. When it starts to affect their life immediately, then they got something to say about
They
it.
they
You
support
know?
the worst possible people,
Yeah.
people that we would look at and call evil very easily, and they not only support it, they kind of green light it, and and then protect these people, like Jeffrey Epstein. He's a guy that had evidence on a lot of people. We don't hear a word, not a word, not one word. So this is how powerful they are. This is what they do. And then right now, when you're looking out at the world and you're looking at, I love the Martha's Vineyard thing. I don't think that these people are being used as pawns. It's interesting to hear Mayor Adams in New York City condemn the Republicans for sending these illegal immigrants. Really, the Democrats sent thousands and thousands more. He hasn't said a word, not a word. So you can't have it both ways. It's
Yeah.
either
Plus,
right or it's wrong.
if it's a sanctuary city, you can't say anything. So what? Your government has spoken. It's a sanctuary city for undocumented illegals.
And
It's
now they're getting it in the face, and they don't like it. And the hypocrisy's shining really bright. And they're trying to make it like, oh my God, look at the Republicans are doing. They're weaponizing these people. And one guy likened it to the Nazis, and what the Nazis didn't send anybody to Martha's Vineyard. All right?
no, they sent them to an oven and then cooked them. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So
quite a different thing. Yeah,
but I think that lunacy and that hypocrisy is just so out there, and people are responding. You see the New York Times says the Democrats are coming up in the polls. The Times, really? And you listen to these liberal rags. Of course they're going to say these things.
yeah.
The only people who really take those polls in those rags are the ones who like it. You don't find a lot of Republicans floating around reading the New York Times.
I don't read the New York Times. Uh, but yeah, the problem is their true colors are showing the duality of it. I don't get how you can sit there and say it's okay to just let them run across the border, but then when they show up at your border, you have a problem with it all of a sudden.
How would they feel if it was 80,000 Chinese soldiers marching over the border? Or how would they feel if,
Oh,
if it
they'd
was Russian
probably
soldiers?
drop a load in their pants.
I mean,
Absolutely, because none of
there
them
are
have
no more
guns.
Russian soldiers. Apparently, there are no more Russian soldiers. So I can't let you say Russia, but or North Korean, or who, it doesn't matter. An invasion's an invasion, and an
Yeah.
invasion is a non-secured situation where you don't know who's coming in, and you need to be able to defend and protect your nation. And that's that simple. It's that simple. When I was out west doing my thing. There's in southern Arizona, that whole Southern California, Arizona area, right? There are signs on the highway that say, don't stop for anybody. If you see a speeding vehicle, get out of its way. I mean, like they're allowing these cartels and these drug runner criminals to function and operate within the United States of America. Their answer was to put up a sign. So what the sign does is warn you, you're the innocent person, whether you're American or not, whoever you are cruising down that road, you're in danger. You're in danger, and that
Yeah.
sign tells you, but no one's there to protect you and say, hey, we're going to stop these criminals. Where does that mentality come from?
I don't get it. Well, the, one thing that comes to mind immediately about that is there just simply aren't enough police to police. They're think about how many people we have in this country alone. Think about, I mean, I don't know how often you drive, but get on the roads for any length of time. You see how many people speeding and disobeying the traffic laws. I don't think it's just that. I think it's just we don't have the police to do the police work. There
I
aren't
think
enough
that
physical men to do the work. You know what I mean?
I think that we need to take the Army Rangers and send them into the Southwest and eradicate and search and destroy every threat that's there, and that's going to start tightening things up. And then on the border, you need some kind of electronics. I mean, we have all kinds of deterrence, electronic deterrence.
There's a few other things. There's a few other things we can do at the border that would make it better. First of
Absolutely.
all, Trump didn't have a bad idea with the wall, but the wall's kind of an odd thing to have to maintain all the time. What would be better than a wall? Army bases. We
I think that we
move
hire
Army
those.
and Air Force and Marine Corps bases towards those borders. Build new ones and have them so close together that there's a very little gap to get through. Who's gonna walk across our border when there's a secure military base there? They'd be arrested immediately, if not shot on the spot. You know what I mean?
You know what? If we help Mexico, one with the cartels, and number two, beefing up their southern border, that's one of the biggest things is when they're getting through down there and they traipse through. Most of these people aren't Mexicans. In fact, we can make deals with Mexico all day about having day workers, week workers. As long as you know who they are, they're registered, they want to come in, they're going to work, it's agriculture, whatever the hell they're going to do. I know what most people are okay with that. But it's the people coming over. They're coming from Africa. They're coming from India. They're coming from China. They're coming from all over the place. They're hopping ships and they're jumping down there at Panama Canal and they make their way up.
Yeah.
So there's the attraction is there. If you kill off that attraction, if they know they can't get in, then that's where it needs to be. And you let them know if you're found here illegally, we're going to send you right back home again, and then that's it. So, and after a while, they're going to stop coming. After a while, they say, okay, enough's enough. And then give them that pathway. You want to come to the United States, serve time in the military, help us out, and help yourself out and become an American, learn how to speak English and all this other stuff. These are the things that people should be able to do or even have to do to assimilate to the multicultures here in the United States of America. They got their own culture, but you still have to assimilate to the American.
Yeah, and there needs to be a pathway, and I agree with you. Almost every other country, if I wanted to join Israel as a citizen, all I have to do is join their. I mean, I'm probably too old now, but if I were to join their army or navy for 2 years, automatic citizenship. So we don't offer that, and I mean we let foreign people into our military that aren't U.S. citizens, but we don't give them a pathway unless they do something heroic in battle. They don't get a pathway to citizenship, and that should be a thing. It's something that we can actually look at. But both Democrats and the Republicans don't want to look at that kind of solution. The Republicans want to, enforce what laws are on the books. The Democrats want to add new laws to ignore on the books. So take your pick who you want to win that fight. Neither one of them are going to get it done.
Republicans have a lot of problems, and most of them stem from their having their heads up their asses. They don't really understand how people are living, even, and then a lot of them are those establishment politicians. You had a Trump who's anti-establishment. That's why they're all so afraid of him. As I've seen it in my travels in my life, when some entity fights against another so vigorously, they're afraid, they're panicked, and otherwise they wouldn't even be on their radar. They wouldn't even care to lie, to cheat, to steal, to do everything that these Democrats have done. It's damaged them, damaged their party, damaged everything they're about. They're up there smiling, taking credit for all kinds of stuff. This country is in financial shambles. The market's crashing. The market tanked the other day, tanked again today. At some point, it's going to catch up. So then FedEx comes out with their report, because they deliver stuff, man. They know about commerce. and they have the right in your face that kind of report. This is what people are purchasing. People getting deliveries and whatever, and they have their financial reports. They say it's bleak, it's dismal, it's horrible. People aren't spending. Yeah, because you don't have the money. Who has the
Hmm.
money to spend extra money right now? It's too. I put gas in my Jeep today. That's crazy. Because the price of gas went down. No, it didn't. What, a few pennies?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Pennies?
like, I don't know, 390 something ish. I can't see through the trees right now, but uh, I did the calculations when it was, I think, $4.24. I had to look it up on Google how big my tank is. I have a Camry, 2021 Camry, and it's a 15.8 gallon. So I'll just call it a 16-gallon tank. And to fill it all the way up was like between $65 and $75
Yeah,
to
there it
fill up
is.
one mid-sized sedan.
And they
$75.
want
That's
they,
ridiculous.
you see Biden at the auto show sitting there in all these expensive electric cars that it costs $100,000, and people should buy this one. You should buy this. Really, really, this dude doesn't understand. He doesn't understand that people are suffering. Poor people are getting poorer. The middle class is becoming poor. It's a chain reaction. The only ones making money are his buddies. It seems like, and the people in that circle, the people on that level. They always make money.
And
But
that's why they don't see the problem, because they have the money to deal with the problem.
wait
Everyone
till
else doesn't.
Christmas. You
You
want to
know?
see consumer spending tanking.
Yeah.
Here comes Christmas, and then there's what I talk to a lot of people. The morale of the country is very low. There is a lot of disparity going on. I've been poor before, so if times are tough, I know how to adjust myself where I don't have to really suffer or sacrifice anything, and I only have me to worry about. So it's not like I've got a
Mhm.
string of people. But if you're a family man, and man, you lost your job and you get another one that's only half the pay, and the taxes keep going up, up, up. There's no grace or whatever. People have kids that get tax deductions or whatever. But in real life, that extra 5, 6, 700 a month we have to pay because of this inflation, you know, that's what takes stealing. It's stealing the money out of honest working people's pockets. And that's what the goddamn politicians don't understand, because they're not honest and they're not hardworking. They have no idea what it's like to run a business or do anything. Trump does. But he didn't start from scratch either, that dude. But I think that Trump talks to a lot of people like me, except he's a billionaire and I'm just some douche. And he, but he likes to hang out and get
Yeah.
with these blue collar workers. And I think he listens to their gripes and how they're living. And when I see these interviews from the past, the guy's centered on what's right and wrong as for representing people, and he has a case. But he's crazy. He's crazy all day long. But I like that. And then you can do a lot worse than having a crazy billionaire as your president, because nobody messes with him. There's no, even Putin, who's nuts, looks at Trump like he's crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. He puts a cap on everybody, and Reagan, in the same respect, he was thought of as equally insane, or even senile at certain points, but especially towards the end of his second term. But you need that kind of a leader, and Biden's not like that. I mean, you can see how things have just got all untwisted with him. I don't even think he knows where he is right now. He could be, you know, sound asleep. He doesn't know where he's at. But
exactly.
we had these two guys. Reagan was a good guy. People liked him a lot, and we got Trump. People don't really like Trump, but they liked how the country was. I mean, I've talked to plenty of people who are, Democrats who are like, I didn't really care for Trump, but I don't like paying $4 for gas. There's a lot of
It
people
it
saying that.
it goes so deep, because what they're crafting and what they're doing, and they're also, this bill they just pushed through, is a giveaway. When Obama was in there, he gave millions to these solar companies that all went bankrupt. The money went nowhere. He gave 50 million to one company, 80 million to another. All of them went bankrupt. The money went somewhere, obviously.
Yeah, somebody
The,
got that money.
money didn't turn into thin air and just go poof. But That's the Democrats. To me, the Democrats want to drive you down to your lowest possible level, so you can barely function. You're just alive, just enough to push buttons and work and vote. And then when they throw you a bone, you're appreciative of it. They don't
Right.
want the prosperity, which doesn't make any sense. Because if you want to collect a large money in taxes, you want your workforce working and having the best jobs they can do to make the most money they can, so you can get the most
You
money going.
also, Michael, you also want them happy, very, very happy. That's why you see the trend of legalization of marijuana for both medical and or recreational. So you keep them happy and push down. They're not going to gripe as much.
In
But yet here we
19
are griping.
I mean, in what was it, in 2020, right before COVID hit, January 2020,
Yeah.
93% of people polled said that they're happiest that they've been in this country. They wouldn't change a thing. 93% of people.
Yeah.
So it went from that to this, and there's a large reason. But you saw the Democrats battling Trump. He was an
Mhm.
embattled president.
They're
There
still
was no
battling it. They haven't
there,
stopped.
and they were battling him over fiction, over stuff that they created, over that
Yeah.
report that Trump was in bed with the Russians and all these other things. And they harped on it, not just them, other media too, worldwide media. I watched the BBC do the same thing. Sky News did these big reports on how Trump, they just found that one guy, Dachenko, whatever, he was a paid FBI informant. He was the one who supplied all this information for that dossier to begin with. He's a Russian agent, so he's a Russian agent. He's got ties to Russian military and also their intelligence service, FSB. And then he was paid by the FBI for that time to be an informant against Trump, and he was lying the entire time. So we American tax dollars paid this Russian spy to give false information for years on Trump for the time that Trump was in there. People need to investigate all of this and hold people accountable. We'll never be able to hold our heads high as free people unless we hold people accountable for their actions, no matter who they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty gross. I've been seeing some Democratic commercials for the governorship here in Pennsylvania,
Ugh.
and they're flat out. They have these people flat out saying that Trump ordered the attack on January 6th to on the Congress building, the Craig Gresham building, and it's real. I just can't believe how insane it is. Number one, number two, they have this guy. Oh, I forget his name now. Netterman or Nesbitt. He's like the lieutenant governor right now. He campaigns in a hoodie, so he looks like a gangster thug, for one. Number two, he likes to let criminals go. And number three, his main campaign thing is that he joined politics, not for the politics, but to make sure his neighborhood was safe by letting murderers go.
Well, they probably don't.
The
They
dude's
probably don't
insane.
live. They don't live in his neighborhood. It doesn't, until they're
Right.
in his neighborhood. Then he's going to say something.
I couldn't get into his neighborhood if I stole his key card.
There's a really high-end neighborhood in Greenwich Village, right? They just hired a whole bunch of what are they? Security, basically mercenaries. Like, remember we were just talking about putting together a brute squad,
Right.
But,
Yeah, a couple of shows ago.
they put together this group of security, armed security, right? They're patrolling the neighborhood, the drugs and the people defecating in the streets and whatever. But these people, they're not afraid of this armed security. They're not afraid of what they've got going on. They'll, first of all, you can't really do anything, even if you are armed security. You can't sit there and shoot people and think you can get away with it. So what are they going to do? They're only going to stoke these criminals, and the criminals know what they can get away with. They know, and they're criminals.
It's kind of their job, man. They know what they're doing.
Those streets belong to them,
Yeah.
and that's the sad part. So if you don't put them in jail and keep these criminals in jail, the only thing that's going to happen is that you're just going to really drive society down to the point where people aren't going to go out. It's going to be like San Francisco. I was watching a report about the homeless and what they spend in San Francisco per homeless. $101,000 each they spend, and to give them a tent. By the way, not even to house
For a
them.
year.
For a year, yeah. And it's amazing because most people don't make that. So if you paid people 101,000, they could have an apartment and they can do their thing and buy their food and
They'd be making
whatever.
twice as much as I'm doing. Yeah, it's they could they'd be solvent.
But isn't it crazy that we're for the homeless people and they haven't solved the crisis and they're still in the streets and they're charging people thousands for a tent that's worth $300 and they're
Yeah.
dishing them out. They're not solving any problems whatsoever. They're just spending a ton of money, but that money is not being spent on the homeless population. They're not putting together homes and doing this and doing that and
Right.
getting them off the streets and into drug rehab and all that. No, they're just doing a few freebies and they're taking the rest of the money and they're stealing it. Right? There's a lot of theft, a lot of open theft going on.
Well, it's an industry. Clearly, look at the I know the numbers are probably different from when I looked them up, but look at the state and federal prison systems. These are places that keep people alive in these small cells for years, sometimes decades at a time, and it's like $35 to $45,000 per inmate per year. And then not only on top of that to keep them at cost of living, but there also is there's services that they have to provide. So there's the catering services that's $1 billion industry per year. They've got the uniform services, people that come in and take the prisoners' uniforms and steam clean them and make them even. That's $1 billion industry. Then you got people who bring in equipment, whether it's workout equipment or outdoor equipment, so that they have exercise. Billions of dollars a year spent on just keeping these essentially very bad people alive. That's
Right.
just as disgusting. That's about what the average person makes, about $35,000 to $45,000 a year. If you're a career criminal, you got a free house on me, buddy.
I think we need to start outsourcing. I think that we can outsource to places in Africa, different countries, like build prisons there and populate them
Borrow
with,
some Russian gulags.
yeah, I mean, take the criminals that don't have any visits, don't have any family, they just say they're doing nothing, and put them somewhere else. What difference does it make where they are? It just makes a difference that you want to keep them alive, fine. Put them out in the Sahara Desert, man. Put them in a place where they can't hurt anybody. Minimum security. You can put them drop them in the middle of the desert. Minimum security. Barely have any guards. What are they going to do? Where are they going to go? How about prison ships? Put them out there. Oh no, it's inhuman. I keep hearing how it's inhuman. All these things are inhuman.
They're
I don't
living
think
in
they
a
understand.
basic, ant hotel anyway, roach motel kind of thing. What different? Yeah, exactly. Put them on the ocean.
I would take the druggies. I would take all these guys fighting in the street. I would take all these homeless and build homeless towns in the Midwest and just stick. We have whole towns in the Midwest that are gone. I mean, vacant because the industry collapsed, so people left. There's houses still hanging around, that type of
Mhm.
thing. For what they spend per person, you can do a hell of a lot for a lot less and get the menace away from the city. You got to get these people away from the cities. And you have to, if you want to help them even with their drugs, you have to isolate them and help them in that way. But I don't think, I'm of the mindset that you can't help people. I think that the ones who are habitually need help all the time are just messed up people, and
They're
then that's
beyond
just the
help.
way
Yeah.
and you need to put them in a facility so they can't hurt anybody. I look for victimization. Who are they going to victimize next? And there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of them out there that do it. And men, women, whatever. They don't have. You got this chick the other day swinging around a machete in New York City. Her second machete attack. They arrested
Wow.
her and they let her out again, and she hacked somebody else. It's become. I have friends in the city. They don't want to go out. I have a friend in Far Rockaway, which is a dangerous area as it is. And I'm like, how? I mean, we used to hang out on the notorious drug block, Beach 15th Street. It was notorious back in the day. And I had friends that lived there, and I used to go there and visit them. And you should see the stuff that went on there and how NYPD handled it, which they really didn't. But they were, what? They were overwhelmed, I would say. And then a lot of the young cops that would come in, if you go to police academy and you score low, you're going to Far Rockaway or East New York. That's where you're going to be walking. So the first 6 months as an NYPD, you got to walk a beat. So you're the young white cop from Long Island with your little young white friend from Long Island walking these streets where people rule those streets. And just for instance, I was hanging out with a bunch of other dudes. You know, I was the only white guy there. And there were cops. One time, a cop pulled up and said, "Hey, white guy, come here." Like, like first he was like, "Hey," I had my back towards the street. He was like, "Hey, you," and I didn't turn around. Everybody starts laughing, and he's like, "Hey, you." I didn't turn around. He's like, "Hey, white guy." when he said that, like everyone started laughing their ass off. So then I finally had to turn around. I was like, "You mean me?" And he was like, these guys, he used the N word. These guys are the N words, and they're gonna rob you, cheat you, steal from you, or whatever. And I'm like, you have no idea that I said these guys are my friends, and they're lifelong friends. I still hang out and talk to them. You know what I mean? Like the lifelong friends. And but the cops, I've seen those same cops drive past, use the N word when my friend's kids were out on the sidewalk during the day. The cop was driving by. He said, as he made that comment as out the window driving by. The kids heard that, and I would tell them that don't. I'm saying all cops aren't like that, and all people aren't like that. I'm like, those guys are hateful. They're hateful people. But when they're in those neighborhoods and they see so much crime and they see so much just madness, I mean, like stuff you don't see in the neighborhoods they come from. They get this idea about people, right? But why is it like that? Why is it so bad in those neighborhoods?
I, there's a solution, and I don't think anybody's ever tried to make it better. Because it's been those areas that you're talking about in New York have been that way for a long, long time. Same with the Middle East. Middle East has been that way. It's just been a horrible war zone for decades and decades and decades. How do you fix that? I don't know. That's a good question.
You know, the ghettos were designed for failure. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
When you look at what they put together, especially the New York housing projects, they're the worst cockroach, rat infested, bed bug infested, dangerous places. You never want to go there day and night. And to say people live there
Yeah.
with their children and all that, and you wonder, you wonder why the crime rate is so high. You wonder why, especially when you have people that think they're not going to get past the age of 21.
Yeah.
So
You got
but nobody
concentrated
ever
victims in a
addresses.
very small location. It's
Yeah,
that's why it thrives, the crime.
so it's hard to get out of there. If you had to hop on a bus in Far Rockaway and get the hell out of there to get a job, JFK Airport's right next to it, and you know how hard it is to get there. I mean, unless you take a taxi cab or whatever, but to get the bus, it kind of goes the opposite direction, or the one bus kind of just goes in a circle. Then the
Mm.
crackheads got together and they started putting together what they called the vans, and they bought these big extension vans, and for $1 they would drive people on a route because the buses, there was only like one or two buses. So even that wasn't good, but it went to the welfare, it went to the supermarket, then back to their neighborhood. There no opportunity. And meanwhile, man, JFK, you can get any kind of job at JFK. They're always hiring. There's always something. You could never not get a job at John F. Kennedy Airport, you know.
Yeah, it's basically like a small city within the city. There's so many people working there.
There's everything you could think of. Every time I knew somebody who was looking for a job, I'd say go to JFK. It's close by, and then everything's taken care of, and they take care. I mean, but the cities. But think about JFK. You got Bedford Stuyvesant right on the other side. One of the most dangerous places in America, Bed-Stuy. But people don't want to work. They want to sit around, and play the game. They don't want to work. And another situation where they want to keep people in. So what do you do? There's not much you can do. It's you yourself. I have friends that rose above that, and they left, and they had to leave to get a good job because there's no good jobs around there. Even if they took a taxi cab. My friend
Mhm.
worked for Pizzeria Uno. He became an assistant manager, which pays decent on Long Island. He had to take, but it was a nice area, and he had to take a taxi back to Far Rockaway, and that was just something that he had to do because you don't have those jobs around there. So
Mhm.
income. If people make a decent living, they can hold their head higher. If someone's always poor and they never have any money, that changes their whole perception.
Yeah.
Makes them angry, and nobody's ever happy when they're broke. Nobody. Yeah.
I think that's a relative term. I think people can be happy when they're broke. They're not as happy when they're not broke. You know,
I don't
'cause
think
you still,
anybody's
I mean, no
happy
matter
when
how
they're
you look at it, your situation is your situation. No matter how much it sucks, you got to try to find some happiness out of that, or you're just going to go insane.
if you're broke and you got bills and there's things on the line and things are going to be shut off and all the stuff you got to go through, and then more keep pop, then something happens. Oh, something happened in your car. That's $1,000. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Oh man, something happened there or whatever. You know what? It's just the way it is, and it's hard. It makes life hard for people to live. So then when politicians get up there on their soapbox denouncing hardworking people, the MAGA extremists, I mean, what's what I know a lot of Trump people, but I don't know any MAGA extremists. I do know liberal extremists though. Well,
I
so
sure
let's look
don't
at
know
the
any.
let's look at the results. Have the MAGA extremists burned down police stations? Have they looted stores? Have they raped and killed people in the streets? I mean, so it really comes down to what type of people you are and what you're willing to put up with, and also what you want for your society. The people that live in those neighborhoods with high crime, they don't want crime. They don't want that. This is not what they chose. But no one's looking to help them. The cops look at them like they're enemies too. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's just that. Like I said earlier, I think there's a uh, there's a population problem, and not just with the people, but I mean with the police. I was thinking about this for a long, long time. We don't have anything like the Autobahn, and it's something good that the president might be able to do if they were able to get it across the whole diversity of the Republicans and Democrats. Is you do a countrywide, as straight as possible highway. And then on that highway, it's going to go across several states. So you can't have, Maryland going into Virginia and vice versa, violating each other's laws. So you'd have to have a national police force, highway patrol force. So there's millions and millions of jobs you could have, but you wouldn't have enough population of people to populate the police jobs to police all of the people. There are just way too many of us. Uh, there's got to be some sort of better cure to crime than a police force, and
But
whether it's
those
injecting.
are honest people who are driving down the road. I mean, like I've been
Not
on the
always. I
autobahn.
mean, I mean, I don't get on the highway, but for like 2 miles, 3 miles to go from home to work and vice versa. And people, it's 65 miles an hour. People go 75, but most people go 80. And that's where people get killed. If everyone is doing that, that's one thing. But there are people that get on the highway at 25, 30 miles an hour, and then they try to merge with these 80-mile-an-hour idiots. And there's actions. There's just not enough police force to police the amount of crime that's going on in this nation alone, and probably worldwide.
But
So it
you
doesn't
got to
matter
look
whether
at it
it's in
this
the inner
way.
city, whether it's in the bad part of the city, whether it's on the highway, whether it's on back roads. There just simply aren't enough law enforcement officers to enforce the laws, and everybody's breaking. I
There's one
break them,
thing
you
Amer-
break them, everybody breaks them. So I mean, we're all criminals if you look at it.
there's one thing America's got that Europe doesn't have is Fords. You know what I mean? So if you could have your autobahn, but the Fords would mess it up because Fords are always falling apart. You need cars that are able to drive consistently at
You'd have
80
to put
miles an hour.
you have to put European vehicles in the police forces, BMWs and
When I
high
just
end
drove
vehicles.
across the country a couple of years ago, I was going through Utah and the speed limit's 80,
Yeah,
cutting through there. But which people want to go 90, they want to go 100, and you have your cops out there. They also have, all over the country. I mean, different states have different laws, but a lot of them have the speed cams, so they're going to catch you, send you the ticket in the mail, and that type of stuff. But the one thing I think I was in Provo, and which is outside of Salt Lake City, and then I decided not to go through Salt Lake, but cut east and then head up to like Wyoming in that area. I you know at 80 miles an hour, and the trucks want to go 80. Used to be trucks weren't allowed to go the same speed as cars. If cars were going 65, trucks had to do 55. It was that type of
yeah.
thing. But that doesn't nobody cares about any of that anymore, apparently, because when you're on this road, it twists and turns through all these canyons is still at 80 miles an hour. And then
Mhm.
you have really tight, the lanes get tight because they had to, blast through there to begin with. So it's not such a wide area to work with. You got tractor trailers getting hit with the wind, almost blowing into you. Man, we watched this one guy who was ahead of us, who just in Arizona getting blown from one lane to the other. If you were going past him, you would have been hit because he was just blowing from one lane to the other head because he was going too fast. He was going like 75 miles an hour in high winds. And
Mhm.
you have a lot of those idiots that are out there that don't understand
Oh
that,
yeah.
when that you got to slow down. But so I don't like the highways, man, like the big interstates, because I feel like they're not like the oil bond had, the turns are banked, so you don't have to worry about flying off the road, and
Right.
all those cars are made. European cars are more made to go that speed and maintain the speed without an issue. In America, man, there's a lot of shit boxes out there. There's a
Well,
lot of people that
you ought to check out my highway. It's actually better than even that. So I agree with you. There's no reason, except for in the slower situations, that should a 53-foot box trailer being hauled along by a 30,000-pound machine
mm.
should be going 60, 70, 80 miles an hour with passenger cars in the same
And
area.
tandem and triple trailers,
Yeah,
man.
those two. Those all of that they should not merge. So my highway would be like this. You'd have 3 lanes for each direction on either side, and then the first lane is going to have like a minimum you have to go. Like in the Autobahn, you have to go like 45 miles an hour, or they give you a ticket. They don't care how
Yeah.
fast you go. There's no ticket for speed. But there's a ticket for
It's
going too
supposed to be
slow.
like that on most interstates. Is
Right?
45
Yeah,
is the
but
minimum.
but also on every exit, every entrance and exit ramp, it should say attain this. So you're getting on the highway, whatever the speed limit is at that junction. It should say attain this speed now as you get on the highway. So you don't. There's no miscommunication. When you get off the highway, it should say attain 35 miles an hour now, which would be like the local speed limit. But so you got 3 lanes. You got 55, 45 to 55 lane, a 55 to 65 lane, and a 75 to 85 lane. Then underneath a two-tiered Jersey wall, you have only trucks, 2 lanes of trucks both directions, like pickup, not pickup trucks, but freight trucks. Then you have a raised deck, which is a toll road that only sports cars can get on, and like the minimum is like 90 miles an hour, and you have to go at least 90. But you pay to get on, you pay to get off. So the
But
further
who's
you
going to
go, the
pay for
more you
that?
pay.
Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay for the raised road for people with really slick cars, man, that can
The
get up
people with the
there?
slick cars are going to pay for it to get on that. You have to pay to get on that ramp. So, but you can't get on with a sedan. You can't get on with an SUV. So there'd have to have like either checkpoints or manned booths, so like the wrong cars don't get on there. But
Well, I
all
mean,
these
my SUV,
exotic sports cars would be. Who else in this country would want to do that? If you had an exotic sports car, where do you go to drive it?
my Jeep
Either
is
either a short
faster.
racetrack or you
These
drive it
exotic
illegally, right?
exotic sports cars. I got a Hemi, man. So I belong on
That's
that
not that
parkway.
exotic, but
You know what? My Jeep top ended at 193 on the Autobahn when they were testing those things. So
wow.
that's a fast Jeep. When I first got it, when I took it in to get tires and whatever, I'm like, just told the guy, be careful with it. It'll jump on you. You know what I mean? Like he gets in and the thing was like, whoa. He's like, oh my god. He's like, what the hell? He looked at the car, walked around. He's like, they put Hemi in a Jeep, and I'm like, they did. But you know what? You see now, but everybody's got their own speed they like to go. I like to see things. So when you're traveling, if you have the time, you can take state routes, which aren't usually more than 55. If they're going through
Yeah.
the deep country, they're like 65, but they're not the heavy truck routes. So you're not playing push and pull with tractor trailers all the time. Those guys are out there working. They
Yeah.
You keep the left lane open because that's the hammer lane. That's the one that they're going to pass people on. Then you get the people in the hammer lane going 45, 50, and or they get mad because you get close to them, they brake check you. People like that are kind of just a menace to the highway. But
Mhm.
it comes down to individuals and how they drive and their perception. And they're, they're like when I was driving from upstate down, when my ex lived on Long Island, and I go down to see her 3 times a week, by the way, which is a hell of a ride. And then you drive in the 4 hours to get to the city anyway. then you hit 3 hours of volume traffic just to go a few miles. And that's the worst traffic. You're already tired from the ride. You already been the 4 hours. You kind of just want to be done, and then here's this 3 hours, and you're grinding with other cars, and they're cutting you off with inches to spare. They don't care if they hit you, and they're not going to go anywhere. They think that your
Mhm.
lane's moving faster. You know how it goes with traffic like that. And it's the worst possible thing. But who does anything about it? Who streamlines these traffic lanes? Who gets the traffic? Most of it was because of the tolls. So
Yeah.
that's where everybody backs up, and you have this stream of cars, and it comes down to the toll operator. Now they can charge you automatically. They capture your license plates and all that stuff. But it's not fair to the consumer, to the average person. They're not looking to make laws fair. In New York State, they want to put limiters on people's cars so they can't go more than the speed limit. So what if you need to go more than the speed limit? What if there's an emergency? What if you're some woman
Yeah.
escaping somebody or whatever the hell you are?
Or you have to speed up to avoid people that are already in a collision. You know.
I look
I,
at it this way. I'm already looking at the classic car law, which is beyond emissions. It's beyond mileage. It's beyond it. They just do the 12-point safety inspection. I'll go out and buy myself a 1969 Camaro with a big 427 L88 for 35 grand. Brand new, brand new. You know what? Brand new refurbished, man. I watch these car auctions all the time, and I'm like, it's crazy what these beautiful cars are going for. And
yeah, but
and
do you know how much it probably cost originally?
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about
About
what
four
what what
thousand
costs now.
dollars. So yeah,
But if you want to go
35.
out and buy a really nice car, you're gonna pay. You're gonna pay
Yeah.
50, 60,000, maybe more. The better, you know what? The range I was looking at was $80,000. Like I can afford that. But to get an older like classic car as a daily driver, right? You put your modern electronics in there and stuff, but you don't have a computer telling you what's going on. You know what?
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with that, man. So whatever rules they make, there's always a way to get around those rules. And they want to make people use electric cars. I was just reading an article on how this guy has the truck, the Lightning, the Ford Lightning. He towed his boat 57 miles on a full charge, and that was it. The thing died out on him.
Wow, 57 miles.
Supposed to get 350, but towing his boat. And wait till they use those things in the winter, or I mean,
Mm.
like, or the heavy summer. Batteries don't like heat, and they don't like the cold. They don't like anything. Batteries, do they?
I think they work more efficiently when they're cold, but when they get too cold, they cease functioning correctly.
A lot of the mileage is overblown. What they say these cars can do, I would half it if they say 300, say maybe 150 if you're lucky, and it depends on all kinds of conditions. But so there's one guy that had to replace his battery in his Tesla. He couldn't, got locked out, couldn't do anything. The battery died. $27,000 he had to pay for a car. I mean that's like the quarter of the value what he paid for the car. You know,
Yeah.
so but
But the problem with these electric battery cars is unless they have the hybrid gas engine to back them up, the battery only goes less than 400 miles.
yep.
My car does like 458 on one tank of gas, and I don't have to search for a special plug.
And you can fill up in 5 minutes. It doesn't
Usually,
take eight
yeah,
hours to charge your vehicle. These people
no,
it takes them 8 hours. So they're pushing people into the electric car, but the electric cars aren't they're not ready yet. They're not anywhere near
not for
technology
travel. I mean,
wise.
for like short distances, yeah, go to the grocery store, pick up the kids from school, drop them off at the pool, whatever. But you want
Yeah,
to, if you're a traveling salesman, forget about it. No, I mean, you're done after 4 hours or 400 miles. How
yeah.
far do
If
you
you
get
need
in
to
400
drive,
miles? It's like from one city to the next.
look at tractor trailers. What are they going to do about that? If you want, I mean,
Yeah.
if you want offenders when it comes to diesel and
Yeah,
that type.
these machines already weigh, a full truck with a 53-foot box trailer on it weighs somewhere on the order of like 90 to 100,000 pounds.
Yep. And
When
what are you
you
going to
put
do?
batteries in that, that's gonna double or triple that weight.
But it's just funny how the government is pushing people. You go and buy an electric car. Yeah. Do you have 100,000? You have 90,000, and a lot of these car companies, the
Make them
dealerships don't
free,
want them.
you know.
Ford is in a battle with their dealerships because they don't want them. There's a whole thing going on there. There's no tax credit this year if you buy an electric car. They're going to give one next year. So I don't know. To me, it's a bunch of BS. It really is. Yeah, you need alternate form, and hydrogen's a good example of that. But the electric, it creates a bigger carbon footprint than the life. They said than the life of a Land Rover. That one battery, just using it, just creating the battery, right? And the batteries get used; they got to go. Batteries. Not for long. You're at your half life on the battery. It's
Yeah.
just like your cell phone. It's great in the beginning, and it stays charged for a couple days or whatever, or maybe a day. Towards the end, you're charging it every 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Or you can't unplug it from a charger, or for fear it will explode on you. I mean, I've had ones that you couldn't unplug it, or it would turn itself off within minutes.
I just watched a lithium battery on a bicycle go up in flames. Some delivery guy that was in the city, and the thing just exploded. And you should have seen the thing. Lithium burns like nobody's business, man. If you take a nail and you put it right through a lithium battery, it'll blow, it'll go. And I have a hard time just the fact they allow them on airplanes, because
Yeah, but they
it's
tell
just
you to turn them off before you take off, but
the
nobody
bat.
does.
I'm talking about the battery itself, the lithium battery,
Yeah.
the battery or the battery in a laptop. They're dangerous. They're very dangerous. Lithium is a dangerous substance, but to mine it's dangerous. The cobalt, getting that is dangerous. They're using children in the mines, but then you hear these politicians buy an electric car and whatever, but they're not thinking where the technology comes from and what it actually does and the carbon footprint that it creates.
Well, and the process is the just the making the batteries itself. The lithium goes through like 8 different countries before it gets to China for refinement. Then it goes from China to Japan to be put in a battery, then back to China for distribution. I mean, it's by the time it gets to the car, it's been in 15. It's been to more countries than I've been to.
So what about steam powered? How about that, man? We go back to that. They used to use steam powered vehicles.
I mean, it seemed to run the West. I mean, how fast did those choo-choo trains go? For 70 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour?
So I'm talking about nuclear.
Well, that's a
you
little
have
different kind
a
of a
little
steam mill.
tiny reactor in your car. You know what I mean? Like a little tiny, like the size of a cup holder. Little,
I mean,
maybe even
there's
smaller
no
than that.
chance of it, irradiating me. Sure, put it in my car. The 50,000 years worth of energy. Hell yeah.
If it's contained, I don't think there's no problem.
Yeah,
They
as
allowed
long,
people to go
as
back
they
to
can't explode and get me just radiated, I don't want that.
the Japanese government told people they can go back to their homes in Fukushima. So here's a place that's got radioactive pigs, and they've been breeding. And when they have baby pigs, they're also radioactive. All these villages have these animals running around that are radioactive. Oh, you can go back to your homes now. It's okay. It's not okay that the radiation's got a half life of 5,000 years. It's a
At
long
least
time.
probably more like 20,000 years.
No, it's got a half life of 5,000 years.
Really?
That's this type of stuff. And you say that means in 5,000 years it'll start to dissipate. So
Yeah,
it's really
it'll be half as powerful, and then another
yep,
5,000 years, and another 5,000.
just like the battery. Everything's got its half life that starts to dwindle down. So, but they're allowing people to go back there. The Yakuza was taking homeless people and making them work in that plant at Fukushima to clean things up, and they kept dying. They kept getting radiation
Well,
poisoning and
yeah, I
dying.
mean,
They lost thousands of people. I understand. You don't see that in the news, do you? You don't see
yeah,
that being broadcast, and the amount of radiation that's in the Pacific now because of that plant. But they built a nuclear power plant on a fault line. You know,
yeah.
you're like, what the hell's wrong with them? These are the technological wizards. Like let's build on a fault on the ocean on the fault line. Like you're begging for something to happen. You're begging for
Right,
something
because
to go.
how are you going to know about a deep sea earthquake until after you won't know until the tidal wave hits.
That's really it.
You
And
know,
now they have
there's no
that
warning. I
Godzilla.
mean,
They've got Godzilla. Sci-fi movies always come true, man. That's been my note.
yeah,
On my last show on Discovery Paranormal, I talked about the CIA report about Operation Stargate, and it was the declassified report. They declassified a lot of stuff, which is very interesting. And it's interesting that the psychics that they use, these psychic mediums, to map out Mars and all this other stuff, and engage in warfare, basic psychic warfare with Soviets, all were Scientologists. Isn't that interesting?
hmm. It is peculiar. Those are some strange people.
Tom Cruise.
Yes, like I said,
But
those are some strange people.
but I kind of like him. You know what I mean? I don't know him, but I kind of
I've
like him.
boycotted his movies since he made the first Mission Impossible movie. Um,
Really?
absolutely, yeah. I have not watched one of his movies since that. My dad and I were huge fans of the show. We
Dun,
watched it all
dun,
the time.
dun, 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 dun,
Right.
dun.
And so I was such a huge fan of the show, even as a little kid, because I was only 4, 5, 6 whenever it was on. Um, I was watching Law and Order, the first Law and Order TV show, and they have the guy who plays the DA, the old guy with the balding head.
Yeah.
And the whole time I'm watching this series, in like 6, 7 years, I'm like, I know this guy, I know this guy, I know this guy. I can't place where I know this guy from. Well, he was the first guy in charge of the Mission Impossible force on Mission Impossible. But it's another story. In any event, my dad and I, and a lot of the actors for the Mission Impossible TV show, we went and saw that movie. And afterwards, we were like, that's nothing like the show at all. He made the good guys all bad guys.
Yeah.
So I've been boycotting him ever since then. I don't like the dude.
You know what, man? The remakes always suck. There's none of them ever. Willy Wonka remake with Johnny Depp. Oh my God!
Although it was closer to the actual book, nobody liked it.
Didn't need to happen. You can't mess with classics, And sequels usually stink too. I mean, I've been watching like when you're subscribed to these cable channels or whatever, they got a whole bunch of movies on that you've never heard of, and
Oh
they're
my
all
God.
equally as bad.
Yes.
But then there's sequels and sequels and sequels to these movies, and you're like, oh my God, they made another one. Like, what were they thinking? Money laundering. I think a lot of it's just money laundering. They make these movies so they can Hollywood is big in the sex industry, is big in the drug industry. Illegal drugs. It's a huge deal. So drug trafficking, sex trafficking. I think the money they make from that's why they make these bloated movies and they blow up the budget. It's laundering, right? Seems
Well,
like
no. I'm quite certain I know what the problem with that is. Now, if you look at some of these schlocky movies you're talking about, you'll find ones with unusually familiar plots and storylines. Like there's another Thor movie out there with this really horrible Swedish actor. And I forget what it's called. It's like Thor, the Amazing Thor, Thor Almighty, something like that. And it's just, it's terrible. It's terrible. There's one that's like a Transformers version out there. There's one there's another like a Tolkien-esque one with the guy who played Teal'c from Stargate.
yeah.
I can't remember the name of that. It's got a couple different movie titles, but he like has these hobbits that he helps go find on a quest and fight, giantized baby lizards. They do this because they want to test the audiences and the special effects. So some of these movies came out before the actual movie so that they could greenlight the actual good movie. So think of them as kind of like the 1.0 version.
And I'm the worst possible person to watch a movie with is me, because I can't keep my mouth shut for the most part. And then I can't watch any movies with Brad Pitt, Adam Sandler. Like I have a list of people that I just can't watch them. I don't want to watch them. Adam Sandler was okay in the beginning as the B actor, like the extra guy on the scene, and when he became like the guy in every movie, and he's the same in every movie. Like there's no like Johnny Depp is a great actor. I will give him a lot of credit because he
he's
gets
got
into the role.
No pun intended. He's got some depth.
When I was listening to him being interviewed about Bob Cratchit, right? That whole Headless Horseman, that type. I haven't seen the movie, but he said that he channeled this 12-year-old girl as Bob Cratchit. Like he seemed that type of character, and that's the way he acted in his head. Really cool, man. Like to think how the scissor hands and all these different things, but Adam Sandler is always Adam Sandler. He's the same guy. And I think we need a 20-year moratorium. Just 20 years without Adam Sandler. Just get it out there. If people want DVDs, let them go get it. Or they want to buy it, let them do it. But just get it off. Because a lot of these movies I pay for are those movies. And you're like, oh, God. But you know what's hard to find? I don't like violent movies. I don't like bloody movies. I like old horror. That's always fun. But it's hard to find a movie that makes you feel decently when you're done watching it. You want to walk away with like, okay, I don't feel terrible inside, But these like
Yeah.
shooting and the biggest Hollywood names that are denouncing violence are the guys in these movies doing the violence.
Yeah. I think it's
So it's
always
just
been that way.
it's double
Um,
speak, isn't it? Double speak. That's
yeah.
when they say something and they do something else, or they you
Yeah.
are what you do. So I don't
Say
like.
one thing and do something different. Absolutely. George Carlin actually talked about that. But yeah, that's exactly what that is.
I watched this movie. I don't even know why the hell I watched it. I should have known better. I should have known better. Just it had that chick Sandra Bullock. Any Sandra Bullock movie is going to be a lot of emotional drama, verbal diarrhea. That's what I call it. Really, that's what it's a useless speech. I say it's verbal
Yeah.
diarrhea. It was like called The Lost City, and it seemed kind of cool for a minute. It had Brad Pitt. He was like, and I'm like, oh, am I watching a movie with Brad Pitt and Sandra Bullock? What the hell's wrong with me? The movie started off and then it just became this whole gentrification movie on how women are strong and men are weak, and the main character was this dude who was following Sandra Bullock around through the jungle, saving her life all the time, whatever, was this big blue pill guy. That is, they're just not realistic. And like you said, Thor, I know they're trying to make it. Didn't they make one with a female? Didn't I read that? Was
Well,
it female
the
Thor?
comics, they actually turned Thor into a female and called him Thora. In the
Or
latest movie, there is a female Thor, but they don't call her Thora.
so what if you're getting down with Thora and you have to make sure that she's Thora in that moment, not Thor. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
you want to do some hammering. You don't want to get hammered.
right.
But I'm watching all these female. They're trying to push women. They're trying to say women are stronger than men. That's what I see from commercials. That's what I see from movies. And I watched this one little clip that kind of passed by me on YouTube. This girl who says she's a martial artist, and then she had all these big dudes, like dudes my size, like 6'5", like these big guys, these muscled up dudes coming at her, and she's like, hitting one, hitting another, doing all these things. So it's play acting, though. You know what I mean? She wasn't really hitting them. And I'm like, does this 90-pound girl really think that she's going to go up against some muscled up 300-pound dude and beat him? Like, and especially six of them. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of martial artists, including myself, who could not going to go up against six people.
No,
Even two it can be challenging.
yeah,
Even one can be challenging because you
one
don't
is
know what the
enough.
person's
Yeah,
capable of. You don't know what they've got. Shit, they could pull out a knife very easily and surprise you. And
yeah,
unless I know guys, I could take a knife away. I'm like, unless you've been in that situation, don't say it. Don't say it. I've had knives drawn on me, guns drawn on me. My mouth got me out of those things. It wasn't anything else, because you get cut very easily.
yeah.
you know, I mean, God, but why? But why do it? Why sensationalize? One, sensationalizing because martial arts is not about violence. So why sensationalize something like violence? And number two, why lie? Why lie? And say because men like in commercials or men get put down, made fun of. They're the utility. Basically, you're a utility that somebody uses until they can't use you anymore, then you're
Mhm.
discarded. And that's what that instead of the being. You remember Happy Days? I'm going to reference Happy Days.
Yes, great
The
show.
dad, Tom Bosley, the father, right? He was smooth. He was cool. He was a dad. He wasn't trying to be the kids' friends. He wasn't doing any of that. He was a little
Yeah,
step back. Even the Fonz made him nervous. You know what I mean? And but it was cool. He was the one that they respected. And the mom had her job. The dad had his job. Nobody made fun of him. Nobody put him down. It was like, look at the Bundys. Like Married with Children. You know
right.
how they kind of that was like kind of the beginning of ridiculing, like making these guys into these complete losers, even though they're the ones who go out and make the money for the family and keep people together.
Right.
And I think that if you grow up and you watch enough of this, especially for my mom was a single mom. She didn't talk trash about men or anything like that, but there's a lot of single moms that will and that do, and they talk trash about their ex. He's no good and he's this and he's that because they're not together again. But man, But then you see girls on Facebook that are pregnant looking for a date. So what does it come down to? Morals, having respect for yourself, and not being out there like that. So I don't know, man. I live in a different era.
Yeah, no, we definitely. This is definitely way different than. I mean, I remember back in the '60s, and I was only in the '60s for a couple of years, but the colors were different. I don't know if you remember that far back, but the color of the planet was different 50 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like the colors were more vibrant. The
I was
grass
only
was greener.
six 50
Huh?
years ago. I was only 50 years ago.
Me too. I know. That's what I'm saying.
I don't remember what the Earth
I
looked like.
distinctly remember though the colors back then being way brighter than they are today. Like what all the natural colors. Not like buildings and stuff, but
Right.
grass and flowers and stuff. They were just the colors were more vibrant. Now everything is like dull and gray and has this wash over it.
I'm going to prescribe you an eighth of marijuana and then send you out there into nature. How's that, man?
Yes, that will work. Send me out into nature with some Mother Nature.
Pass the Dutchie to the left-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Dutchie, on my Red Pill News show last night, I was talking about King Charles and how, they said King Charles cares about people and he'll pay the tax and all that because, there's no tax on everything he's inheriting. There's a 40% inheritance tax if you're British. So, so that's you or me. If you're there, that's what you're paying, right? But not for the king. He changed it for himself a long time ago. So he's got, I was reading the list of the stuff that he owns aside from inheriting his mother's money, but the Duchy of Cornwall, and they own so much. They own the big cricket field. They own an apartment complex area that's bigger than Chicago that they make millions of dollars, hundreds of millions per year. He owns four major royal, these I'll call them infestations, four major royal holdings where they take all this money in, and he had to pay no tax on that money, nothing. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's funny how he's passing everything over to his son William, so he can avoid paying the tax as king, so he doesn't have to, say, "Oh, I'll pay." Like the Queen paid some tax. They said that was her discretion. Nobody knew what it was, but a lot of people said it was nothing. Like a quarter, basically. That type of thing. But so, what do you think about King Charles? What do you think about it? The Queen died and all this stuff's going on?
It was kind of out of the clear blue sky. I never really, I don't understand America's fascination with the royal family at all. They're not our leaders. Whenever one of them, trips and falls on the street, there's like, hours and hours of just schlock documentaries about them. I honestly don't care, to be honest with you, Michael. I don't care about the royal family at all. I don't think they're the best, nicest people. But I haven't met them. But
well, one thing for sure,
I think having a king and a queen, it's kind of a silly thing.
The monarchy, especially their attachment to British colonialism and all the people that suffered under that, and the fact that they kind of just they take money but they don't give it, and they don't.
And the fact that they can rule a country without any kind of due process, it's just because of blood or the line of the lineage, how it falls to whoever dies next, the next person in line goes.
So now the billions with the B that he's not paying in taxes. Don't you think that would benefit the people in the UK? I mean, their NHS is falling apart, their whole health system's falling apart, and this guy's doing that. But then, you have a lot of just I don't like royals. So I mean, there's no guessing there when it comes to that. I think they're all useless, and I don't feel bad. Didn't feel bad for the Queen. She died of COVID-19. They're not reporting that. Nobody's saying that. I know the timeline. She just got COVID not that long ago, and then she was in the entire time. She ended up with long COVID, and then she died of it. But they're not saying that. They're not getting into that. I don't know why. It'd be interesting to say anyway. But she was old, and 94 years old. It's hard to get hit with COVID. I know a lot of people younger than that died from COVID-19. So, but it's just he's such a dick. Charles is, and he just is.
I don't think he's a good person.
They can't even quantify what they own because they have offshore accounts. They have holdings around the world. It's the royal family, so they are embedded And he's not just like some rich CEO either, because he could take someone's head off with a sword legally. They don't have any rights in England. They don't have free speech. That
Yeah.
they can get arrested for saying I don't like the king and that type. So I don't know. It's interesting situation. I have a lot of friends in the UK. They're great people. I find them to be very subdued. Especially one, I love the girl, and she's like, but the Queen Mom was good, and she had a good heart. And I'm like, you're missing the point. And what was good about her? What did she do? I mean, even Charles has this big charity that just recently was exposed that all the money they were taking in didn't go to the charitable causes. They just kind
Oh,
of
go
kept it
figure.
in. Yep. And then some emir in Qatar gave them bags full of cash. So shopping bags full of cash. I lead a horrible life. I'm not taking in shopping bags full of cash. I just want to see one of those Emir shopping bags full of cash. You know what I mean? But these people live on an unrealistic level to most of us because we're just, you know what? There's no thing that would enslave people more than debt. And you
Yeah,
have those bills, you
absolutely.
have those debt. You want to be able to eat and you want to be able to live. So you're on someone's leash, and that's just the way it is, unless you could truly work your way around things and be free. And
Well,
what's freedom?
in this country alone, if you want to, buy your own house, you can't unless you have good credit. You just simply can't.
Right.
It's almost impossible. I mean, the rigmarole I had to go through to get my house was a pain in the butt. I'm like, I can understand why people hate buying and selling a house.
to,
It's
to get
it's
a
a
job.
it's
Just to get a
worse than a
job, they
job.
they want you to have a drug test. They want you to have a credit check. You know what? And the background check. So the background check, you're like, okay, they want to know who they're hiring. The drug test, I think, is if you suspect somebody, that's one thing. But just to say, to get this job, we're not going to trust you. We want you to take this drug test. I think that's wrong. I mean,
I agree.
and then the credit check. It's none of their business what your credit is. None, none, none,
For a
none.
job, no. To
Yeah,
buy a house, I can see why. I don't. I mean, I know why they do it, but
right. But not a
it's
job.
aggravating.
And also insurance companies. The car insurance is using credit checks now to judge what you should pay every month. So what does that have to do? What does my driving record have to do with my credit record? Maybe I got the worst credit in the world, but I'm the greatest driver in the world. One thing has nothing to do with the other.
Yeah,
Maybe you have great credit, but you're a horrible driver. Right. One thing has nothing to do with the other. But
they
these are
don't
just little
impact
ways
each
that
other.
they can steal. It's a way to steal. Right.
Yeah,
The poorest people pay the most for stuff. Right. Then they buy inferior products, which break faster,
hmm
fills up landfills because they can't afford the good stuff. Right. But so what does King Charles need with all those extra hundreds of millions in taxes he would be paying per year? What does he need from that money? I mean, if he was a prince, now he's the king. Those are his people, they're his subjects. Wouldn't you want your people to have that money?
well, yeah. I mean, a good guy would.
Right. A good queen would too. A good woman would want that. But that's the royal thing. They don't need them. They're albatrosses. And if that was private industry that owned the cricket field and those apartments and all that, they'd be paying taxes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If it had been, say, Trump, for example, who took over the kingship, he'd be paying that 40% tax.
Yeah. Trump paid his taxes, right? He's got his Trump hotels and all that.
Yeah,
And he was very careful about that. Every time they said they're going to come out with his tax report, and when they remember Rachel Madcow, she was always on that. Like, we have Trump's tax reports tonight on the show. They didn't even understand what they were talking about, right? And you could not
right,
like Trump. I had a great aunt that was like that. She wasn't great, my grandmother's sister. That's right.
right,
She was
right.
not great. She had the nastiest. My aunt Eva. She was. You remember that movie with Chevy Chase, Vacation, right? The first Vacation. Aunt Edna. Remember Aunt
Yeah, and
Edna?
Edna. Yeah,
That was Aunt Eva. You know what I mean? They had the same type of anger, same and never say something nice. And and if you hurt your feelings and you'd sit there cry, she was like, "Well, I'm just telling the truth."
yeah.
So people don't like people like that. People try to stay away from people like that because they're not nice people, and Trump is a guy like that. But I think he's trying to be funny moreover. But man, when I listen to him, he's not wrong. He's
Yeah.
not wrong. So I can't. And when it comes down to voting, when you have the sitting president say, if you vote for this person, you're the enemy. That's what I heard him say. I heard him say, if you're not with us, you're against us. Oh my God, talk about divisive. And I'm not even a Trumper. I'm just a middle of the road kind of guy. But the Democrats have pushed me very far right when it comes to what I'm thinking of these days. And like DeSantis, that guy's good to his wife. She's dying of cancer. He's there for her, and he's got Florida to run. He did a lot of people favors down there. Not favors. He represented them. Not even favors.
Right.
He's doing his job.
He's doing his job.
Yeah. So, and he's not letting that liberal commercial machine push on people. When Disney tried it, he took a bunch of tax money away from them, millions. Now they're saying the place is dirty, it's disarray, it's got, because there's this CEO, Bob Chapek, something like that. He's running the place into the ground, and I've never been to Disney World. Have you been down there ever? Disney World?
Yeah, the one in Florida, yes. I've been there several times. I love going there. It's expensive as hell now, but yes, I've been there many, many times.
They say it's big bucks. But one person rented this expensive suite, and it was supposed to be all nice, and they found bed bugs and whatever, and it's just dirty and nasty and whatever, man. I have no reason to go to a place like that. I mean, when you're young, it's one thing. When you get older, it's something else. I would go maybe for the photographic part of it, capture some cool images, that type of thing. But
it's fun, but believe me, no matter what age you are, it's a fun play. It really is. I mean, if you can afford it, it's like $99 for an adult nowadays for one day. But if you can afford to go down there and get a hotel and spend a couple of days, you will enjoy it. Epcot Center is cool. The Disney World is cool. There's the Universal has a studio tour down there, which is also very nice.
Have you been to Harry Potter Land?
Have a shitty time.
Have you been to Harry Potter? That whole thing?
Not yet. No, I would like to go to see that. I've never read the books, but I'm kind of a fan of the movies. So, but yeah, I would like to go there. That place looks pretty neat.
If you do the books, you can't do the movies. If you do the movies, you can't do the books. You know how it goes.
Sometimes, I'm going to probably buy the books and read them because I know there's some differences between the books and the movies. There's a couple of movies that I've read the books sometimes while I'm watching the movie, which is Dune and A Clockwork Orange. And I got to say that those movies are pretty close to the book. I mean, very, very. The first Dune novel, or the first Dune movie with David Lynch, is pretty close. He added some things to it that I think were necessary, but very close to the book, almost word for word. But
the spice is the worm.
Right.
The worm is the spice.
the first and only attempt at A Clockwork Orange, done by Stanley Kubrick in the 60s with Malcolm McDowell, that is almost 100% to the book.
That's the movie I like, because that's got Sting in there, and it's got right. I mean, who else? Everybody was in that movie.
Freddie Jones, who was in Crawl, his wife.
Is that the
was
one I'm
also
thinking?
in
No,
Crawl.
maybe that's not the one I'm thinking of. Who am I thinking of? Which is the one I'm thinking? No, maybe Malcolm McDowell wasn't in there. No, the one with Sting in it. Which one was that one?
That's Dune.
Yeah, but which Dune?
1984, the one directed by David Lynch.
Oh, so was it really 84? I thought it was earlier than that, like back in
1984.
That movie was badass, though. Oh my God, it was.
I liked it. I thought it was fantastic.
I think they were right on.
It took me 5 times to watch just to get the idea of it.
I think they were straight on with their technology. I like movies that really focus on technology and stretch it instead of making up something, completely different. Like, you ever watch a British sitcom called Red Dwarf?
One of my friends on Facebook actually was the costumer for the American version of that show.
Really?
Yes.
It was an American version?
Yes.
I didn't know about that. I was into Red Dwarf, and I was watching them on the BBC, and then now I have them all on DVD, man. I got them all. But man, what a great show when they really focused on the technology. It's a sitcom though. I mean, it's a sci-fi sitcom, and that guy Lister basically traversing the universe like he's like this total slob, you know what I mean, who like bites his toenails and that to trim them and that type of thing, but very real cool and very real. And he's like really the only human left. He's there with the cat that he saved, which became a whole cat race, and then now it's a humanoid. So he's got the dude cat and Rimmer, the guy he like basically hated, which they made into a hologram, and then they find Crichton, the robot. Man, that show! I was watching it long time ago. I was middle of the night. I was like, "What is this?" So on PBS, like, "What is this?" And I thought Cat was a vampire. At first, I'm like, what are these guys? Vampires? Like some weird things. I'm not really into vampire stuff. I was watching it. Oh my God, did I laugh, man. They really, really have just good between those guys and great actors, and they just made people laugh. So love Red Dwarf. But they focus on the technology. And I love that. Yeah. We need more of that. It's not a show that makes you feel bad when you watch it and walk away from it. Yeah. Star Trek
Well,
doesn't make you feel bad. Does Star Trek make you feel bad? It's supposed to be successful missions and they're all good, right?
there's some. I mean, you talk about outer space, so you got to have some bad with the good. But I think Star Trek does pretty close to what the best imagination of the future would be like.
Galaxy of
How cool
Terror.
would it be to?
How about Galaxy of Terror? There's
Huh?
only one scene worth watching. Galaxy of Terror. There's only one scene worth watching, but that's an interesting one too. I like the old sci-fi ones, because they're goofy and campy and they're more real than the newer ones. Are all anything politically correct gets ruined. The Walking Dead was ruined because it was all PC. It turned into a
Yeah,
PC machine.
that's one of the shows I didn't follow too much the zombie shows, but they were really popular and they still kind of are. But you know, and this is coming from a guy who likes sci-fi and fantasy. I don't think they're as realistic as the Star Trek shows, to be honest with you.
Well, first and foremost, zombies don't wear pants. There's a
Probably
thing
not. Yeah.
you got to think about when they're out there. They're not pulling their pants up, and pants come off very easily. I know.
Yeah.
I wear them.
Right.
I mean, everybody adjusts their pants during the day a few times.
At
If you're just
least a
walking
couple of
around,
times. Yeah.
yeah, if you're walking around through the woods, and you're bumping into other zombies, your pants are coming off, and then you're
Mhm.
probably gonna fall down because then they're around your ankles. Imagine so in my zombie world, you'd have a bunch of dudes on the and people with pants and they can't move because they're wrapped around their ankles. And they're like, so you got these half naked zombies all over the place. But really, even a dress on women or whatever, dresses on men. How long can they possibly stay on? You're getting rained on, you're getting whatever, and you're in the trees and the
Unless they
bushes.
got stapled on at the when they put you in the box, they're coming off. Yeah.
Ever walk through buckthorn? That thing take your clothes right off. So I don't
Yeah.
know, man. So it's to see them all fully dressed and walking around, that was kind of funny to me. And then and also like the women who copped up being these warriors. There are some tough women out there, and they will jump to it. Most of them no. You know what I mean? Most of them would be inside hiding from the zombies, waiting for the dudes, the utilities, to go take care of the mess. So, but that show got so weird and it was cool till they killed this guy Glenn. And if you ever watch this guy, he was he was happy, he was funny, he was out there until he got into a relationship, man. Then it was all about her. Then he was pining away doing the white knight. Oh, the knight in silver, shining armor.
Mhm.
Oh, we gotta save her, save her. That became his primary focus. So why do men lose the focus on themselves when they get into a situation like that? And it shouldn't be a relationship be 50-50. Like both
Yeah.
people, you know what? I mean, to I have a friend who's just like I'll say it in scientific terms. He's pussy drunk, and yeah, scientific, and it's an AMA. You gotta look up pussy drunk. And he's just infatuated with this chick. As soon as as women will lose respect for you if you put them on a pedestal. If you buy
Right.
them expensive gifts, they will lose respect for you because women have a whole problem mainly with their self-worth. The ones I've known in my life, friends, family, the ones I've dated, you know, if you like, like a gift is nice. An actual okay gift from your heart. This is something it's an occasion and whatever. But like a lot of guys go crazy with all kinds of jewelry, all kinds of expensive stuff, and they log in
Right.
with these gifts. And at that point it becomes more of a property instead of the respect of a relationship. So I think that a lot of communication is lost there. And I try to retrace my steps and my bad relationships, what went bad, and it was probably all me at one point or another. I have a problem, and I don't like people. That's one of my problems. I can deal with people for a short time, but I never really found the one that I wanted to be around all the time. And my
Yeah.
last
That's the
relationship,
hard part. That really is a hard part.
the last one, I raised your kids. We were together 15 years. It was a situation, she, got issues and like narcissistic, and it was very tough just getting through there. And I really felt like it was a duty to raise the kids, and they weren't mine, but I felt like they were, and we just went forward doing that. But she couldn't have a good day without making you feel bad, or making you cry, taking you down, and that's not good. That's not good for people.
No, that's
Your
not how.
self worth and your self respect, your self esteem. When someone's tearing you apart, the liberals do this thing where they sexualize everything. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
And there was this tennis thing going on, and the girl's father came over, patted her on the back, and maybe his two lower fingers, hit her ass. And then the coach came over, and there were guys were from Slovenia or whatever, pat her on the back. And all these people attacked. Oh my God, he's sexualized. You touched her sexually. Look what he did. That's disgusting. And he molested her. Yeah, live on TV in front of everybody, the guy molested his daughter because his two fingers hit her ass. It's a sickness in your mind
Mhm.
if you
Yeah.
sexualize everything, and the people that assume that all these actions were negative actions, maybe that's something inside of themselves is why they jump to that.
Yeah, it's you see it in like these clickbait things like they come on the browsers. I saw one the other day. They were, and I didn't read the article because I didn't care. But one of these little 20-year-old blonde tennis players, her profile picture on her credentials to get in and out of the tennis tournament was her in a one piece bathing suit.
Mm.
And people had an issue with that. Like, oh, how dare she sexualize herself by putting herself in a bathing suit on her tennis credentials. So what? Who cares?
And
She's in a
liberal
bathing suit. So,
liberal
so what?
people are supposed to be liberal. There's it was the conservatives like you got to cover up and all that,
Right.
and right, and the
But
liberals are like, no, take your shirt off, right? I mean, it was that free the boobs, all that
right,
stuff.
free the boobies. Yeah, I don't get why people give an issue about that. Who cares what her picture is?
Nowadays it's free the boobies, but don't stare at them. There are clubs in New York
Yeah.
City that have a staring rule that if you stare at someone, you'll be thrown out. And what the hell is that all about? That's part of the business. Is
Look, I'm a dude. There's bare boobies. I'm gonna look. You can't stop it.
I worked in that business, and I was an entertainment writer, and I will tell you, you go to a winger show, you go to back in the day, any of the shows where girls come wearing lingerie. They don't come wearing clothes. They're there in straight up lingerie. They're showing their stuff off or whatever. Hey man, I had to hire a bunch of shop girls, and my friend's dad owned. I remember a club called Goldfingers back in the day. Remember Goldfingers? It was a strip club. It became some sports. This is still a strip club, but it has a sports name. They just changed the name anyway. Because he and I were there all the time trying to pick the girls up, and I said, tell a lot of them, you want a job? You want to come to the club and you get $100 a night plus tips. You get to walk around. Don't take your clothes off or anything like that. But these girls were knockouts, man, and they made so much money selling those shots while doing roving shots and just out in because the club was so big, it was hard. There were 4 bars. There was hard for people to get to the bars because there were so many people in there. So I'm like, send them out, send out the shots and bring them to the people instead of let them come to the bar. So But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with showing some flesh. There's nothing wrong with showing people's bodies. The liberals will say sex workers are okay, should be legal and all this other stuff, but then they say don't stare at boobs. Right?
Yeah.
That make any sense to you?
No, it didn't
I'm
make
gonna bring
as
up a
much as
girl
it
you.
makes any
I'll bring up
sense
a
for
girl
those
that you
those
know.
Muslim countries where they cover up the girl because I might lose control because I see a lock of blonde hair or I see her ankle. Holy cow, look out! There's a girl's ankle. I
How
think I'm
about
going to lose control. I
you know
don't.
who
I really don't understand some of that stuff. It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
you know who Milana Vaintrub is?
No.
So if you watch commercials, she's that AT&T girl, the one with the big
Oh,
boobs.
Melania Raintrop. Yes, yes, yes. I know. Yeah. I don't remember her
That
AT&T girl name, but yeah, she's
so
cute.
you identified the boobs. I said the one with the big boobs. You identified. So that's her identity. She now is trying to cover up and compress her boobs because people made online comments that she has beautiful boobs, and then she's like, "How dare you say I have beautiful boobs?" And I'm more than that. So I investigated. I looked into her background, and here she is in the beginning of her career in a masturbation video in one of them, completely nude, taking her clothes off. She in the video she said to the guy holding the camera, "You like my boobs? I like my boobs. I think they're nice and squeezing and all that." And then she's naked and a whole bunch of other stuff. How could you be a hypocrite and say, "Now I don't want you to look at my boobs"? Before, that's how she got into the business. Was her big luscious boobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
She is somewhat of a flipper on that subject for sure. I agree with you on that.
she's Russian from Russia, right? She came to America, and she was
Ukrainian, I
raised here
think.
in.
Actually, she's from
No, she's
Ukraine.
from Russia,
Is she from
and
Russia?
came here to. Yep, came here to America. All this other stuff, that type of thing. I just say don't be a hypocrite, man. Alyssa Milano did the same stuff. She
Yeah.
she was naked in all these movies, some vampire movie where she was getting with two dudes and a girl, foursome, and then
Yeah.
she's on the internet saying, "Don't look at my boobs," So people shared pictures, it's the internet. And once things are out there, they're out there. And her mother had this big crusade on "Don't look at her boobs" and how dare you. She's the one who showed you. She's the one who said, "Look at my boobs."
Right.
I mean, what? So then all of a sudden they regret it, or they don't. They I don't know, man. But to chastise people because of it, or to make people feel like you're some creep because you listen, man, we're sexual creatures. That's how we have sex. We look at the opposite sex. Some people look at the same sex and they say, "I want that,"
Yeah.
or the two people say, they want each other. Usually, the ones you want don't want you. The ones that you don't want you.
Right.
So,
Yep. That's usually how it works out. But
uh,
that's the factor of attraction. I mean, you don't look at someone who's completely like out of your realm, out of your comfort zone, out of any other kind of attraction, and go, yeah, I got to go and meet that. No, you go after what you like. Either you like the way she looks, the way she dresses, the way she walks, something that you like. There has to be like there. Period.
if you show too much interest, you're going to go nowhere.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I was in a unique position to observe common relationships between people and then hear about it later on. And as soon as these guys crossed that zone, like my friend who is like crazy for this girl, did everything for her, bought her bought her an engagement ring, right? And they're gonna get married. Then she broke up with him because she's going to go back down south, and he's out west. And then he's like, no, hold on to the ring. Well, when you come back and whatever. I was like, dude, take that ring back and tell her goodbye. Hey, it was fun. I'll see you later. I got a date later on tonight. That's
Right.
the way. If you want them to love you, that's the only way, unfortunately, unless you meet that one person. We call them Nawalts. Not all women are like that. That's what Nawalt stands like. That if you meet that one person who just loves you for you, you love them for them. Hey, it does happen. I know people who have been in that. But usually when you're living together with someone for a long time, there's issues there. There's stuff there, and then it depends on what they have accumulated between the two properties, houses, kids, and whatever that complicates things too. Then people end up cheating on each other, and that adds a whole different level of messed up, to the whole situation. So, but it's you don't want to be nasty to the person that you love, right? And I think that's really it. And men love women for women, but women love men for what they can do for them. There's a big difference there too.
I
And
think
then
part of that's true. Yeah, the things that they can do that women aren't usually traditionally taught, like fixing things and swinging hammers and stuff. But
a lot of women now can't
that's not
even cook.
always the case.
A lot of women now don't even cook. I cook.
Yeah.
My mom taught me to cook, and she's going, you cook, you can take care of yourself. And when you meet people that don't cook, they don't take care of themselves. So you
Mm-mm.
meet like these a lot of these young women. They got the big nails, they got the hair, they got all that stuff, and the Gucci purses. They're very conscious on what they spend on things, and everything has got to be really top notch, top flight, right? And then they say,
Right. Right.
"Oh, I don't clean and I don't cook and I don't do any of those things." Would you look to someone like that for a relationship? I mean, that's someone is
If
not
you
worth
can't, so you got to be able to cook. I mean, it's just the basic principle of life. If you can't make yourself something to eat, uh, what are you here for? You know, I
Back
mean,
in the day, the women would have the food on the stove, and the men would come home from work, and then they would smell
now
that food and kiss their wives, their women, or whatever, and then that was their lives. Man, things have changed though. In our lives, in the roles that people had, things have changed, and families changed. Families broken up, into pieces. In some cases, a lot of it's financial.
we were actually talking about this on Jeff's show just before this. That we were talking about this thing called archaeofuturism, where you take like our culture as it is today, but you put like Star Trek style technology into it. So things are kind of out of place. And I was talking about how cool would it be if we had the 50s, 1950s, like Leave It to Beaver, like, okay, home values, like that kind of 50s innocence. But we had the connectivity of today where you have the internet and all this information is instantly, as soon as something explodes over in China, you know about it within minutes. Imagine having that old 50s morality with today's technology. Where would we
I
be? Would there
saw.
be a war in Ukraine because of it?
I just saw the beaver in Tremors 3. I was watching Tremors 3, and that came out a long time ago. And the
It's a good
beaver was
movie.
in there. He played the scientist, the little short scientist guy. I don't know if
I'll
you
have to
know
go
the
back and look
trip.
at that. I have all those movies. I'll have to go and check that. I haven't seen
Yeah,
that in
he's
a
the guy with the
while.
glasses, man. Well, that's Ernie, right? Is no, no, that's not Leave. Is that Leave It to Beaver? No, Ernie. Ernie from My Three Sons. There you go. My brain
Okay.
works
Yeah.
all of a sudden. But it's cool seeing those guys in these movies all these years later. Every once in a while. I love the Tremors movies. I'm a Tremors. You know what? From the whole series, man, all of them are awesome. You
Yeah,
know,
I enjoyed them. Even the TV show was pretty good.
yeah, I like how they kind of went from one to the other, and the screechers, and then the ass blasters. Kind of making the complete circle of life for that worm. It's pretty cool. But that's the thing about these movies, like 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 Christmas movies. I was looking at a bunch today that they're advertising because Christmas is coming up, obviously.
Right.
And then you'll get them now for free, on these services. But the second they get into November, you're paying for these Christmas movies. You're paying big bucks. Charlie Brown Christmas. That's a classic, right? But they're gonna make you pay
Yeah,
like
I've never paid for it. That particular video is as old as us.
yep,
Came out in 1966.
yeah,
And I've never, ever, 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 ever paid to see it. It's always been on TV, always been for free, and it was like every year you could watch it for at least a day.
yeah. I have it on DVD. Luckily, I went crazy a few years ago buying DVDs on eBay, and some of them were so cheap. It was like when digital stuff was starting. So maybe a lot of people thought people aren't going to watch DVDs anymore. But when you catch the market when something's going out, man, you get deals. CDs. I have hundreds of CDs, and a lot of these CDs have 15, 20 songs on there. You only
Mhm.
pay $3 or $4 or $5 for the CD when it was crashing because they want you to pay a buck and a quarter or whatever it is now for a digital copy, right? And,
Right.
if you go on Amazon or whatever, or iTunes, but you know, the music doesn't sound as good. Uh, uh, like even people that argue vinyl. over anything like starting with vinyl.
Yeah.
Vinyl's cool, but CDs really had a good technology about them. A lot of my CDs became sick. They start to flake. The ones made back in the '80s, and you gotta toss them out because that's it for that. It was
They
just
have a
bad
lifespan. Yeah,
technology.
they eventually will stop functioning correctly.
Yep. And then, but I took them and I downloaded them all on my computer, and I have external drives which I have all my music on there. But when you play digital, it just doesn't sound. It doesn't sound as robust. If you take CDs and you take an aqua blue magic marker and you go around the edge of the CD on the inside and on the outside, when the laser's hitting the CD, it keeps the light inside, which helps the music. It gives you more of a robust sound.
Oh,
So that was a big deal back in the day when CDs came out. We were all with our blue magic markers, man. But now you have like everything's digital, and it's just not as good. I mean, I
it's not,
guess you just have to have the
even if the
remember.
music was as good, it's not the same. And when you go to your record collection, whether it's CDs or vinyl records, you've got a physical thing that you can flip through and look at.
Yeah,
I've got six furnitures upstairs that have my DVDs and my music on it.
yeah,
I've got 900 titles or more than 900 titles of DVDs and movies, and then I have I think 420 something, close to 400 and something CD music from different various genres. But
mhm,
half the fun of selecting it is you don't know what you want to select, so you sit there and look at the collection like, oh, I'd love to see that again. Haven't seen that. I haven't heard that. I haven't seen that. Yeah, you know what I mean. The joy of picking it out is half of the fun of listening to it.
right, exactly. That was albums, like
Albums
vinyl.
and CDs. I mean, like I said, I've got a CD rack up there that's almost completely 100% full of music, and I
Going to a
can never
record
decide
store,
what I want to listen to. I go up and I'm
going
like,
to a record store and flipping through albums and that type of thing. And it was something to do. It was cool. There's always something that you're like, oh, look at this one, or if that one's on sale or
yeah.
whatever. It was good. Woolworths, man, that was a great place to buy albums. I bought my Blues Brothers album there for 99 cents. I was like 11 years old, whatever it was that came out, man. The old Saturday Night Live, you know, the good old days, man. But
That
and the
was a
Blues
good show.
Brothers, that's the number one selling blues album of all time. Do you know that?
Really?
And,
Wow.
and black musicians hate that the blues because they're Blues Brothers. It was kind of a a joke, right? I mean, not a joke, but it was part of Saturday Night Live. They were characters, but then they
They were
went on the
comedy
road.
characters. Yeah.
Yeah, they went on the road. They played a lot of places. The Blues Brothers band, they were everywhere. But they're a great band. They're just great. When you listen to it, you're like, wow, because these guys really had the talent and the ability,
Most of
to
the band members are members of the Saturday Night Live band.
exactly. So these
Oh,
guys were professional musicians, and
right. You
you
could
know,
see some of those guys on the show from the beginning, from like 1973 onward.
yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. I miss the old days because I think there was simpler times. Even though things were complicated in my own personal life, but you know what I mean? Like these days, I don't envy these kids. They're they're
Yeah.
they're messed up, and even when they get high, Tide Pods and compressed air. They
Yeah.
just made compressed air. Like if you buy whipped cream here in New York, you got to show your ID.
Yeah. You
I'm
got to
like,
be
yeah,
18
sure.
to buy it. Yeah.
You got to show your ID to buy whipped cream. You don't have to show your ID to vote. They don't want you to show your ID to vote. Think about
Right.
that. But
But to
whipped
buy
cream.
to buy spray paint or air duster or any of those kind of things, whipped cream, they want your ID.
So they don't know how to
They don't.
party. These.
But they don't take your ID when you buy a can of like Lysol or a can of Pledge.
Well, you ever see those people, those documentaries of the people who consume chemicals to get high, or
Hmm.
they'll eat like Ajax and whatever, and you're watching this, and their teeth are falling out. They're all messed up because they're eating these chemicals, and you're like, oh my god,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? At some point, if you own Ajax, you want to hire that person to be your guinea pig.
Here's your new spokesmodel, No Tooth Jim.
Try to float a new food group.
Yeah,
keep
Ajax.
keep
It's
you
what you don't
clean
want for dinner.
inside, clean from mouth to tailpipe, that type of thing. But I don't know, man. The world's getting loopier. The loopy people are attacking. There
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
seem to be a lot of logic to it. There's just all these random attacks. Man, they just so much of it, right? I mean, do you think it's just because the media is focused on it and they're putting all these stories out there, or do you think that stuff is just increasingly getting worse?
I think people are just losing it. I mean, it just think about it. I mean, I for the last few months I've been struggling. I mean, I'm starting a new job next month, so I'll be
Yeah,
making some more money, but than what I'm used to having. But the whole I was going nuts. You know, $5 for a gallon of gas, and my current work is 14 miles away.
yeah,
One gallon of gas in my car is an average of like 34 miles, so that's one round trip.
that's a lot of mileage. My Jeep gets like 17 on the highway, 13 putting around.
Yeah, oh, well,
That's a,
I mean, I'm on country roads, but I mean, I get on the highway for like 2 or 3 exits as well. So I mean, it's like mostly long country roads. I get an average of 35 miles to a gallon. That's pretty good,
that
but
is good.
but still, that's $5 for one trip to and from work. Now it's going to be a little bit smaller. It's a 3 mile commute, and I'm getting at least a $5 raise, pretty close to it. So things will be a little bit more affordable, but you know, just the panic of where am I going to get $15 if I run out of gas before my paycheck comes? I mean, I've
Right.
literally had that problem.
You got to go outside one of those gas stations with like blind person glasses on and raise money. Like
You got to go
you
out
give
and
me a
sell
dollar.
yourself as a prostitute in the middle of the street. So,
Bring,
yeah, I'm sorry, sir. I
get
need some change for gas.
get one of those buckets and play them like a drum and be
Right?
like,
Yeah, pickle drum band.
"Hey man, I need money, man. Please,
Mhm.
please, man." You know, yeah, that's no
Sometimes it
joke
works,
though.
but you know that's where I think all this is coming from is people are just flat out panicking. I mean, it's
I have friends that do Uber. They
yeah,
have their normal job and then they also signed up for Uber. So if they need extra money, they just run some people, and they can get 20, 40, $50 just from doing that. It's wear and tear on your car and it's your life too. So I mean, I've had driving jobs between jobs and it is what it is. You know what it is? It's money. And it's easy work and it's high pay. I don't know about now what goes
yeah.
on. I don't know
Uber's
about.
not something that would appeal to me though, because I mean, my brother suggested that when I was in between jobs at one point years and years ago. And I'm like, you know, that it doesn't. The money sounds good, but it doesn't sound appealing. He's like, why don't you just go and get an Uber job and drive drunks around? And I'm like, have you ever been around drunks?
uh,
They're not always fun.
but for the people that like, if they're going to dedicate themselves to Uber and they have like a separate vehicle they can use just for that, and it's not their own private vehicle. I mean, I can see that part of it, I guess. But
Mhm.
to use your own vehicle for any kind of job is kind of a no-win scenario because they're not going to fix your car. Actually, I think Uber does. I think they have a program that if your car breaks down, they have cheap repair shops, but they're not going to fix it for you.
Yeah,
And
but I'm
then
pretty sure that if you're using your car as a job and it's not declared as a job vehicle on your insurance, they're not going to pay.
yeah, well, because
So,
rideshare, it's rideshare, so they get around the law. Like
right.
back in the day, when I drove on Long Island, I was between club jobs, and then that was the only job I could get at that time, and then turned out to be a great job because I was meeting girls and making great money, and I was like, wow, and having fun because I drove the nighttime shift, and everybody was just kind of goofy and hanging out, but
Yeah.
so it was only like 6 or 7 months, so I didn't have to do it too long, but you know what it is? It's your own self worth, man. I think that I don't know it, and it's also the money. How much money? Well, then this guy turned me on to the limousine business, and he said, you drive a limousine, you'll get half the book plus 35% tip. I was making $1,000 a day, one day. And then he told
Yeah.
people that, oh, there's no way. I'm like, well, you want to look at if you're going to go for some entry level job, go for one that pays. When you make a minimum wage, you're not gonna make money on minimum
Right.
wage. You need to extend that. So like for Uber and all that, like for us, like let's say I ran someone to LaGuardia. We did a lot of airport service. I ran someone to LaGuardia, right? I wasn't allowed to pick somebody up there and take them anywhere because I didn't have a medallion. And the TLC, the Taxi Limousine Commission, they will fine you thousands of bucks They will impound your vehicle, and you will be done. So, but if you got a call at that and they're going back to your town in Long Island, or the next town over, those calls you can do. You can go to the airport, pick those guys up, because it's different. So now with Uber, it's ride share, so they can pick anybody up at the airport. They can kind of do anything, and get around the
Yeah.
TLC. Those medallions are over $100,000 for a taxi cab in the city per year. $100,000
Wow.
for a medallion. And then they put these people in to drive the cabs, and they make their money, but they really have to hustle to really complete that. So it's really, if you think about the government, they really put the screws to you a lot of different ways. And I think that at least Uber and Lyft have found a way around things, but
Right, but that
in
hack
Lyft,
license, that hack medallion, that's a city government. It's not like
right,
that in every city.
five boroughs. So if you're gonna traverse the five boroughs, and think you're gonna have that kind of business, you need the medallion.
Mhm.
Unless there's livery. So like a lot of times you'll find the livery cabs. They're the ones who are willing to go into Harlem and Spanish Harlem and the Bronx and all the places you don't want to go when they know you're carrying cash. I had to
Mhm.
drop somebody off in Bedford Stuyvesant one night, and there was like a group of like 20 something dudes across the ways, all these black guys hanging out. This is 2 o'clock in the morning, by the way. And then she had a baby in the baby carriage. I had to get out to of the car to take the baby and baby carriage out of the back and help her out with it. And these guys were like, "We're gonna rob your white ass, Mo Effa." And I was like, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. And I was lucky to get out of there. I was happy to get out of there. And so, but yeah, that's what livery was for. They go to places, and the livery laws are a little different. But ride share is with ride share, you can have a limousine and not
Yeah.
pay. Like when I had my limo company, I had to pay $7,000 per vehicle for insurance. $7,000 just for insurance.
Per month.
And Yep. Yeah. Oh no, per year.
Oh,
7,000 a year. So which is a hell of a lot of money for car insurance. But you're running people, and then the newer your vehicle, the more they charge you. So they
yeah.
actually like punish you for having a new fleet. They want you to have all broken down stuff to play the game, but then your customers aren't going to have that experience. So now let's think about Uber. Let's say you bought a stretch limousine, and then you want to run people. You can do that with a ride share, normal license plate. You don't need to worry about livery or any other nothing, and run people and keep that money for yourself. So they kind of open the door for a lot of people if they want to get into that type of thing. But it's crazy business. You know what I mean? Airport service is one thing. Just picking people up, dropping off. It's like the drunks. You don't want that. It's just drunks, druggies, whatever the hell
Yeah.
they are. They're always trying to get over on you, and a lot of them smell. They want to puke in the car and all that. One guy puked in the car. I drove his ass to the car wash and I made him clean it out. He's like,
Really?
dude,
Wow.
you gonna make me clean it? I'm like, yeah, you're gonna clean it right now. And he was afraid.
Yeah. See, that's one of the
I'm a
things I
lot
didn't
bigger
want
when
to
I get
do.
out of the car, man. We're just sitting in the car. You look kind of small. And he's like, go, come on, dude. Well, yeah, you're gonna clean it. You
Hey,
know what I
you
mean?
puked. You got to clean it. Yeah. I mean, and that's something I wouldn't want to have had to dealt with either. It's just you know driving drunks around who are going to throw up in your car.
At least in a
No.
limousine, people get in there they're either going to party, they're going to have a good time, or some kind of wedding thing, and they respect the space. So I didn't
Right.
do a lot of stretch work, but I have friends that drove a lot of stretch limousines. It's a long shift. It's a long day. There's no limitations for limousines like truck drivers. Truck drivers is 12 hours on, 12 hours off is the rule. You know what I mean? Limousine,
Yeah.
nope. You can drive 18 hours. They don't care. They don't give a crap. So, but whatever, man. But you know what is? It was $1,000 a day. I did bachelorette parties, man. Bachelorette parties. They would take their clothes off in the back of the limousine. How hard is it to drive down the road with all these girls behind you jumping up and down naked?
Yes, actually, I do.
I was all dashing in my silk shirt. I didn't wear a tie. I didn't wear one of those limousine hats. I wouldn't. I told the dude, I'm like, if you think I'm going to do that, I'm not going to do it. I said, I'll drive the thing and I'll be cool. You give me that
Right.
grand a day, then I'm happy with that. I only had to work a couple days a week. And then the rest of the time, I was
Right.
chilling,
Yeah.
chilling at the beach. But that's the limousine business too. A lot of it's just weekend work. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
You
but
lose your
working a
weekends,
normal
but
job,
you making
when you work for a
bank.
company, they own you basically, and they tell you what to do. You do it. I mean, I don't know about a Home Depot or Lowe's. I know that these corporations are very tight though. Especially with like marijuana is becoming a weird thing because like in New York now it's legal. So if they drug test you, I don't think they can keep you from that job unless it's something that you can't do if you're whatever, right?
Maybe legally, if it's a federal job,
whoops,
yeah, they could,
like
but
like driving, you know. If they go by the federal laws, I guess they can do that, but
yeah,
not the state laws. But I know in Las Vegas, I've seen a lot of court cases that got ruled against the businesses for not hiring people because they were smoking marijuana. So I don't know. More gray areas, man. It's better to be under the radar. Whatever you do it under the radar because this is a crazy world and things aren't getting any easier. Even the jobs out there, dude, we're talking about jobs, but man, the lack of good jobs. There's lots of service industry jobs, but the lack of good
yeah.
jobs, they're not there. They're not there.
Well, no, the jobs that are available out there are in what I do is in warehousing and in the home improvement area. I mean, UPS, FedEx, they're all always hiring constantly. But and Amazon also has like 3 or 4 new not factories, but warehouses up here in this area.
Oh yeah.
So, but they're so high volume that they're also very dangerous places to work,
So
particularly Amazon.
the truck drivers picking up, dropping off, a lot of them don't touch the freight, so they just pick up the box, right,
Most
and bring
truck
them from one
drivers do
place to the
not
other.
unload the trucks. No, they drop off a trailer and either
Yeah.
they uncouple and drive on to the next job, or they stay until it's empty.
And they're getting
Or
45 bucks an hour. The truck drivers, 45 an hour. That's basically what they make. Even entry level, it's around there, 35, $40 an hour or
yeah,
something like that.
something like that. But some of the smaller mom and pop shops is 20, 21, $22 an hour. But they also
Right.
some of the long hauler ones, where you have to go several states or you do an overnight, several 3 or 4 days overnight driving. Uh, there's a mileage, so you get like 10 cents for a mile, and if you get in the
Right.
cities, it's like 35 cents a mile.
Right. They take care of their people. I see what truck drivers get paid. It's grueling work. I think it's just driving is not anything like any other job. You can even close your eyes for a few minutes and collect your thoughts and take a break. When you're
Yeah,
driving,
you
you're
can do
driving.
this number. You can't do that while
Yeah.
you're driving.
Especially a tractor trailer or something like that. But I mean, it's that's what it comes down to a lot of people. I know a lot of people that became truck drivers because they lost their jobs, and then they went the path of least resistance. Is that driving a tractor trailer, and they didn't mind doing the miles in the highway, but I
Well,
think
yeah,
that
no, some of these
ultimately,
places will hire you without a CDL. They will pay you to take classes either at their facility or another facility, sometimes
yeah,
even like a community college where they'll teach you how to drive with a CDL license, backup trailers and all that, and then they will almost always hire you on.
the best way to go though, what I found is that you go to the driving school yourself and you pay for it, and you can get funding. You don't really have to pay for it because there's all kinds of especially if you're a displaced worker and that type of thing, there's all kinds of funding available to pay it for you. This way, you get your Class A license, your CDL, whatever, Class A, B, C, whatever you need,
Mhm.
and then the company that you apply to doesn't own you. When you go to their school and they train you and they do all that, they make you sign a contract that you're going to work for that certain rate for like 3 years, sometimes even longer. So they get
Yeah.
that driver, they know that, and then they give you the worst trucks. They're not exactly
Yeah,
nice
you
vehicles.
might encounter that, but there are plenty of unions that protect the truck drivers,
I
AFL and
think unions
CIO.
protect themselves these days. I don't think that the Teamsters and all that are actually out there for the people anymore. But hey, it's just doing the mileage, you make the money and that type of thing. And if you got no family life and nothing going on, you can even have a dog take it with you on the road and do the
Yeah.
miles.
Have you seen inside of some of these, long haul rigs? They got,
Yeah.
nice amenities. I mean, it's not, it's not the Ritz, but some of them have king size beds. Some of them have, bunk beds. So you can like bring a companion and bring, your wife and a small kid, which I wouldn't want to be that kid, but you have full bathrooms in these things. You can shower and go to the bathroom on the road. You don't have to,
Some of them are like little campers, yeah.
right.
Not
Yeah,
the ones that
exactly.
if you sign up for like that JB Hunt or any of those companies, they're not going to give you the big sleepers. Something minimum. You know what I mean? But these
A
guys that
lot of
own their own
JB Hunt
trucks,
is dedicated stuff. So they're local, day trip only,
yeah.
like they
Nah,
for
JB
Home
Hunt
Depot
goes
and Lowe's
across.
and whatnot, but they do have
JB
some
Hunt
long
goes
haul stuff.
across the country. Yeah, MTS, JB Hunt. I know them all because I've seen them on the highways. And then I know people that have worked for them from time to time and doing all that. So that's more the track record. I would rather, like I said, I'd rather be in a limousine. You get to dress up. You meet some cool people. If they do any damage, they're paying for it. And that's kind of it. And just don't throw anything out the window. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. But if you can make a grand from doing something like that, rather than and having to do the miles driving a truck and
Yes.
going through the
And
traffic,
some of the
it,
nicer fares will share their drugs and sometimes their bodies with you. So
the
perks.
trucks, when you're jamming gears going through bumper to bumper traffic, I can't even imagine what something worse than that. Automatic, having an automatic is bad enough going through heavy traffic, but
Yeah.
jamming gears, you get like 13, 15 gears.
13, some of them have 20 and 30 gears. So,
So yeah, man, it's a whole world. So I guess we're at the end of the show. Joe never got here, man. Joe
Joe
never
never
came
came
in.
in. I still don't see him.
He's down there in the queue, but he never. That was from the beginning. I don't know. He said he was going into New Orleans and all the stuff going on. Oh, be careful, man.
Yeah, well,
you know.
he's got Bertha with him.
Yeah, he's got Bertha, right? Joe's in
Yep.
traffic. You know what?
Yep, that's right.
Only time he talks about in traffic, I had my gun out. This other guy had his gun out, whatever. Oh my God, who wants to deal with that? Gun out, you
Yep,
got your gun out.
if you live in a dangerous place, you need to have that with you.
I don't know. I think the people make it dangerous. The place isn't dangerous. You live around
People are
dangerous
dangerous. I
people.
mean, think about it.
But all right, so we're gonna end the show. So tell people where they can find you, man.
For the next 2 Fridays, I'll be on Fridays at 8 with Jeff Pritchett on the Church of Mavis radio show.
So what do you guys talk about at the Church of Mavis? Is it religious?
Next week, it's going to be Pleiadians and aliens and UFO conspiracies. Should be a good one.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of that on Discovery Paranormal, just here and there. Alien technology, I did one of those. Just flopping around. I think we're getting closer to Halloween,
Yeah.
so more talk about the spirits and that type of thing. But well, there's a lot of information out there, and a lot of people. Everybody's got a camera now, so they're all capturing all kinds of interesting things.
Yeah,
Everyone's
but
got a
if you look
camera
at
in
the
their pocket.
people, they're always looking down at their cameras. They're never looking up with
Yeah.
their cameras. That's the problem. Look up with it.
They're not going to capture anything, though. I'm a photographer, and I've got some dramatic lenses. I'll tell you, if I have a 600 millimeter, if I take that sucker, it looks like a cannon. If I take that sucker out,
Yeah.
it takes a while just to focus on something at night in the sky, just to focus in on it, And
You need a
my,
tripod. Yeah, I know. That's a big, heavy lens.
my camera takes seven frames per second. So if I hit, it's like a machine gun. You hit the trigger and it's going. But I'll tell you, it still takes a long time. So you're talking about thousands of bucks worth of equipment, but it still takes a long time to zero in. Imagine a cell phone that just these junky cell phones. You'll never get the quality out of the cell phone. But a light in the sky. What are you gonna do? You can't really zero in on it. Even the moon shot, and the moon is there. The moon ain't going anywhere. It moves very slowly. You know what I mean?
Well,
Even
the
getting a
problem is
moon
if you
shot.
zoom in, you have a smaller, tighter area to control. So it's harder when you have a small layer like this. It's always shaky, but as you back out, it always stabilizes. So
Yeah,
that's
but
part of the problem.
if you have the lens puts you there. So you don't really have to. It's more about lighting. All camera work is lighting. And if you have the proper lighting, you're going to get the shot. I like challenging myself. I like taking pictures of 747s and the night sky way up there as they're flying to see what kind of what kind of definition I can get out of it and that type of thing. But the 600 lens I have has 14 elements by themselves, 14 pieces of glass in that sucker. That's why they're so expensive and heavy and everything. Yeah, heavy. They're like 6 pounds. Those things, 5-6 pounds. Yeah. Add that to your camera. Like my friend was like, I don't work with a tripod. I really don't like them. So I got to hold it. You're gonna hold it up and whatever. And I was doing I was kicking myself because I should have used a tripod. The eclipse. I was doing the eclipse, and then it's hard to capture when you're just holding the camera. I got some okay images, but not yeah. A tripod would have been good, but the camera at that time, the camera lens combo I had weighed about 12 pounds. So when you're holding that up above your head for several minutes to point at something, it gets it can be exhausting, man. You get fatigued, because you're holding 12 pounds over your head for X amount of minutes. You know what I mean? So anyway, good workout.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah.
Huffing, but when I see like people with the UFO pictures and all that, well, I don't know what that is. I have no idea. I'll share one story real quick about a UFO. Right, the house I lived in, last house I lived in, we'll say, had a beautiful view, big giant view of the lake and the hills. Right, had about an 80-mile view. I kind of figured, from end to end. So one night around 11:35 at night, something like that, I'm looking out the window, and that's why I sat in my living room. There was no TV in there at the time. It was just about the chair and the nature in the window and seeing all the beauty out there, right? So I'm sitting there looking, and I see this thing that looks like a star or a planet, right? And it's moving from left to right. And I gotta tell you, it was moving fast and smooth. The smooth got me. I'm like, look at that thing. What the hell is that? And then behind it comes these two fast blip airplanes, blip, like chasing it. Then from the northern direction, there was another one of those fast blip airplanes coming down. So then they're all converging on the same place. This smooth thing took off just like that. Like you can just push it with your hand, that thing gone, man. One airplane, the two airplanes that were together, one turned back, the other one hung around for about 15 minutes. He kept circling around. And then the one to the north turned around. I think they were military craft. And I think they were on an intercept or whatever this thing was. And then they probably told one to hang around to see if everything, came around, whatever, you know what I mean? But that was my only really cool story of and if I had a camera, it wouldn't matter. You wouldn't see anything. You would just see the blip and the
A
block.
couple of blurry lines. Yeah.
So until they land and you can talk to them, sit down, have a meal, it's going to be a lot of guessing involved of who is what and that type of thing. So anyway, we're going to end the show, and you can catch me at Discovery Paranormal 8 o'clock every Tuesday night Eastern time, and the Red Pill News 8 o'clock every Thursday night. And of course, come here for the Centralist, where usually Joe Montaldo is here. You got Jay McNicholas, our fetus attorney, man. He is here. I invited other people. They're afraid to come on. They are not here. And then Joe said John or whatever, he was going to come on. I don't know what else he's talking about. He's not here. So
Just
it was
tonight.
us, and I think it was a good show, man. I had a lot of fun. Always having a good time, man. So we'll say I'll see you later. See you guys next week on the show, and whatever will happen by then. How many more illegal immigrants will show up in Beverly Hills or Martha's Vineyard or whatever? We'll find out on the next show. Bye, y'all.
Night.